Should be going live. Haven't got my Santa hat on. Good morning. Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas evening to all of you, and good morning to us. Merry Christmas, good morning. Oh, Michelle and I woke up late this morning and suddenly realized we had the live stream, so we're here. I'll just show you. We've set up everything. Actually, you can't see much. There's a little bit of almond meal, some eggs there. We are going to be doing a bit of cooking today, a bit of fun. Thought I'd bring you all along for it. And so who's in? We've got Amy, good morning. Lisa, good morning. Byron, Jamaican girl, and there were some comments earlier on. I don't know why. When I woke up this morning, they'd gone, they'd vanished. So my apologies to anybody that commented through the night. And I'm not sure why that happened. I'm sure that's just another YouTube anomaly. Good morning, WTG LB. Merry Christmas to you. Is that cable in the way, Michelle?
Maybe.
A little bit?
I don't know yet.
So we were messing around with, Merry Christmas to everybody, by the way. We were messing around making some biscotti, some Christmas biscotti, of which I think we've eaten them all, haven't we, Michelle?
We have.
Michelle ate most of them, of course.
Of course.
I just had the one. But look, I know the stream may be in and out as well today. We haven't got great internet, but we're going with it anyway. Hey, Margie, Merry Christmas. Hey, Florian, how are you? Good to have you in. Merry Christmas. Look, this is going to be a long stream today, so kick back, make yourself a cup of tea, or just drop in and out as you please. And we've got quite a bit of cooking to do, so I've got to do it today anyway. Well, I haven't got to do it today, but I thought I'd do it and share with you. This is a little bit sort of showing how the thought process goes into something that we often make for the channel, and I planned this next couple of days to do this recipe, so I thought, oh, we might as well do it live Christmas morning. We're not actually near our family, sadly, so it's a bit of a sad Christmas. No, not a sad Christmas. It's a Merry Christmas, but it's a shame we're not able to see our family till a little bit after Christmas. Hey, Florian, yes, Merry Christmas to you. You did not know. I was here where? Florian, I'm not sure I understand that. You didn't know we were on live? Anyway, so we were practicing making biscottis. You know, biscotti, it means in Italian twice baked. So they're those sort of like, often they're a semicircular, ovally sort of shaped biscuit. Quite often they have almonds or fruit in them. Sometimes they're just plain. They're delicious, and you kind of dip them in a coffee. I'll probably make another coffee a little bit later on in the show, because I think we haven't even started baking these yet. So if you want to join me making biscotti, by the way, you can do. All you'll need is some all-purpose flour, plain flour, all-purpose flour, some castor sugar, but you could probably do it with regular sugar if you haven't got castor sugar. You're going to need a couple of eggs if you've got some. A little bit of baking powder. So that's all you're going to need. And if you've got some dried fruits and things to make it festive, you can do. So I'm going to be doing it live here, so it's real time. We're going to be baking it nice and slow in the oven. So if you're around, you can join me and do it.
Kieran Hughes says, Merry Christmas, Steve.
Merry Christmas, Kieran.
Margie said, I had some of the fruit cake. I got a bit tipsy, might have overdone it.
Good for you. You know, it's Christmas morning, but I'm having myself a little bit of a Pinot Charente, a little French aperitif here. I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink. I often do in the live streams. I don't know why, but I'm having something. So cheers to you all. Super Christmas, and a happy 2018 already. Where are the years going?
So Florian says, it's 1 a.m. here. Just wanted to say hi and stay for a short while, not staying too long. Oh,
Florian, of course you're in Europe, so I'm so sorry. We're not super early risers, Michelle and I, so we couldn't get up and do this at sort of the crack of dawn. So 11 o'clock for us here in Australia seemed about early. It does mean that it's quite good timing for Australia, and I think possibly even in the US, but I know it's not so good. So thank you, Florian, for, oh man, staying up till 1 o'clock. Maybe you stay up till 1 o'clock anyway.
So I'm YouTuber says, hey, I like your cupcake recipe.
Cool. Which cupcake? Amy, hello, is anyone home? Hi, Amy. Can you not hear me, Amy? Surely you can hear me. I think people can hear. Can everyone hear okay and see all right? Clearly, Florian can hear me, so that's all good. Now, the idea, are there many people in at the moment, Michelle?
15.
Hi, everybody. If anybody's, look, while you're in there, hit that thumbs up button, by the way. Just crunch that thumbs up button on the video so we can sort of get the algorithm working to let YouTube know that there's a few people watching. And
Ding Kai says, hi, Merry Christmas. Sean Shellhammer.
I'll just have a quick look. Ding, Merry Christmas to you. Sean, Merry Christmas, buddy. Oh, Lisa's in. Hi. Merry Christmas. Lisa, we're making, I don't know what we're making at the moment. It's a sort of variation of a biscotti, but we're taking it a little bit Germanic because I'm actually going to be making some homemade marzipan in a moment. Actually, let's crack on and start. I've got a lot of...
Everyone's saying it's loud and clear. So.
Good, good, good. Now, I need some marzipan. What we decided is we're going to make a biscotti. Never tried this before, but we're going to run a coil of marzipan through it. I love marzipan. I love biscotti. I love Stollen, which is a German cake which is made in a similar shape to biscotti, but it has marzipan running through it and fruit and things. So we're going to make a what are we calling it? A Biscollen or a I'm not sure. It's a cross between a biscotti,
a Stollotti,
and a Stollen, and I've never made it before. I don't think anyone ever has, and we're just going to see how it goes. Now, in order to make this, I'm going to show you how you can make marzipan at home. It's really easy to make, and homemade marzipan, by the way, is so delicious. If you go to the supermarkets nowadays and buy marzipan, it's look on the ingredients on the back. It's got a little bit of almond essence in it, a tiny bit of almonds in there, and mostly sugar. When you make your own homemade marzipan, oh man, it's so good. So even if you don't like marzipan, but you like almonds, for instance, you might like homemade marzipan.
So Leslie's in. Howdy, folks.
Hey, Leslie.
B Swins.
Good evening. B Swins in. Merry Christmas.
Jacqueline Douglas.
Hi, Jacqueline. Merry Christmas to you. So I've got myself some almond meal. This is a blanched almond meal. Let me just test this other camera, see how it's going. So this is my down camera. So I've got a bowl here. It's at 250 grams. Now, let me just check what 250 grams is in pounds and ounces. Do you know off the top of your head, Michelle?
9 ounces.
Michelle knows. She knows. So I'm going to use the whole lot. We're going to go with the full 250 grams of almonds. Who else is in?
Well, someone says, hello from Canada. Ignore my screen name. Call me Sean. I just wanted to say I love your onigiri.
Hi, Sean.
Florian reckons it's Stollen.
Stollen, yeah. I mean, it's tricky to know. I know that, do I need to weigh this? I do, because I need to weigh the casters. So equal amounts of beautiful fine almond meal, which feels sort of like fluffy and snowy. So if you're up in the northern hemisphere and you've got snow at the moment, we are super hot at the moment. So let me just...
Leon Morgan says, Merry Christmas from South Wales. Steve, love the channel. Have a great 2018.
Oh, Yakida, welcome. Who said that? Leon?
Leon Morgans.
Hey, Leon, welcome. Where are you from? South Wales. I used to live in South Wales in mid Glamorgan way many years ago, Leon. So nice, beautiful part of the world.
Daniel Grist says, wishing you and my family in Australia a Merry Christmas all the way from England.
Oh, Merry Christmas to all your family here in Australia. Now, I've got an equal amount of castor sugar. I think the Americans call this superfine sugar. Is that right? We call it castor sugar, and I'm not even sure why we call it castor sugar. Any ideas?
No.
So equal amount of castor sugar. So we're basically sweetening our almond meal. 250 grams. And then we're going to bind this whole thing together with eggs. And that is basically what marzipan is in simple terms. It's just a sweetened, so 250, I'm going to go a little bit under because sugar's never a great thing. Now, if you like marzipan, if you really enjoy marzipan and the flavours, it is quite a good idea to add a little bit of almond essence in there as well, just to sort of like lift that almond flavour. So I'm going to put maybe about half a teaspoon in there. Let's go with a full teaspoon. I'm going to go some almond essence. Now this, it smells like marzipan. So it really does just add that extra punchy sort of marzipan flavour. Lots of comments rolling up there.
Yeah, so Tara says hello.
Tara, how are you?
Sean from Canada says it's -5 Celsius here.
Now I'm going to break my eggs. If you've got fresh free-range eggs, by the way, even if they're fresh, break them into a receptacle before you break them into your mix. I did one time some years back learn when I had a bad egg and I broke it. I'd made up all my mixtures of expensive ingredients and I put a bad egg into it. So it is good practice just to break your eggs. I don't always do it, but today I am because I can't afford to. I've got those second batches to practice with. I'm going to take both my eggs, break them into a bowl here. And what was that last comment, Michelle?
Well, Heisenhauser says hello, Merry Christmas.
Heisenhauser.
That's how you say it. And Brian D. Smith says Merry Christmas from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Beautiful.
And Sean says, Brian, you're close to me. I'm in London. But I think he means London, Canada.
Oh, London, Canada. -5. You know, once it gets below 0, do you find when it gets below 0 that it becomes a little bit indifferent? So, I mean, once you get below freezing, or actually once it gets down to -2, -3, are you talking about Celsius? Yeah. Once you get down to those low, below freezing temperatures, the humidity sort of drops out of the air and it just becomes, it barely makes a difference whether it's sort of 5 or 10 degrees difference. Anyway, so I'm going to pop, let's just put this camera down. Is it worth having the down camera at this moment? So I've got my almonds, I've got my castor sugar, equal amounts of almonds, castor sugar. I've put a little bit of essence in there and a couple of eggs. Lovely fresh free range eggs. And I'm just going to mix this together. This is going to make homemade marzipan. Let's come back up to me. Merry Christmas. I'm not putting my Christmas hat on this morning because I'm not near the family, because Michelle and I are not near the family, it feels a little bit non-Christmassy this year. So I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. But it is nice that you guys are able to drop in and take a little bit of time out of your Christmas and say hello. Now look at this. This is coming together and it smells like beautiful marzipan.
So Sean says, not here, Steve. It's humid and wet, cold. It's weird.
All right.
And Charlotte says, Merry Christmas, Steve. It's -3 here and snowing softly. Yes, snowing softly.
Char, Merry Christmas to you. Now, this is coming together lovely. I'm going to get my hands in there now. Char, we're just making homemade marzipan. I'm going to be making some biscotti on the show, and just because I can, because it's a little bit of fun. But straight away, look at the way that's coming together. Let's get the scales back there a little bit and centralize that camera. Now, doesn't that already look like marzipan? So if you like your marzipan, homemade is really very good. Good morning. Oh, Sahani, thank you very much. Oh, that's a super chat from Sahani. Thank you, Sahani. I'm glad you've dropped in. Merry Christmas to you. I don't get many super chats. That's really sweet. We'll put that towards something for Christmas. Thank you very much. Now, so I hope, glad you got in, Sahani. Love to you. So what else were we seeing there?
Zoe Pappas says, Merry Christmas from Sydney, Australia.
Oh, good day, Zoe. Merry Christmas.
And Florian asks, how long can you keep that marzipan? How do you best store it when you are not using it right away?
Well, look, Florian, this is a little bit sticky. I might add, how could I dry that out? I don't want to really add any flour to it. I would normally add a little extra. My eggs were quite a large size. So, little tip for you, keep a little bit of your eggs back. This is going to be fine. I might add a tiny touch of flour to this just to take the stick out of it. But what was the question, Michelle?
How long can you keep that marzipan, and how do you best store it when you're not using it right away?
Florian, I'm trying to think. When we made this last time, I think it's stored for at least a few weeks. Even though there are eggs in there, you've got a lot of sugar contents, which will actually help preserve the eggs, as it often does when you add sugar to any ingredients. It will preserve it slightly. I would trust your nose a little bit on it. It will last maybe, let me just have a little try of this, maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
In plastic wrap or a plastic container?
Wrap it in cling wrap, plastic wrap, whatever you call it, and keep it in the fridge.
Okay, and Sean's saying, what is marzipan?
Sean, marzipan is, Michelle, you get me a little bit of flour, just a little dusting.
Icing sugar?
No, I don't want more sugar in it. I wonder whether I put a bit of that rice flour in with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put, I'm not going to put corn flour or regular flour, but I'm going to put a little bit of rice flour because the flavour. This is rice flour. No, I don't really need it. I'm just going to show you the flavour of raw rice flour is quite nice. Whereas if you put uncooked flour into it, it can affect the taste or the flavour. Now you could add a little more, it only needs a pinch, it's not going to need much. And we're going to be cooking with this very shortly.
So Sean Shellhammer says, is that -5 Fahrenheit? And then Sean has answered, it's 23 Fahrenheit. So it's -5 Celsius, isn't it?
Okay. I don't know if I understand that, Michelle. I'm thinking marzipan at the moment. I'll just quickly say, with the marzipan, somebody said, what is marzipan? It's a very sort of, I tend to think of this as a sort of Central European product. In Germany, when I was younger, they used to make this into little fruits and things. So they actually shape it like modelling chocolate into little coloured fruits. So it's a slightly sweet almondy paste, and it can be used in Christmas time. It's used in a lot of recipes. So Charles, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. You couldn't see it earlier, Amy, is that what you're saying? Now I'm just going to put my marzipan over there. We'll use that a little bit later on.
So Heisenhower says, well, I've got to go. Have a fantastic Christmas. Oh, by the way, I've made the best meals ever watching your videos. Thank you.
No, danke.
Well, it says thank you and then it says danke.
Ah. Danke schön. So, you are welcome. You are welcome. Welcome. You are always welcome. Thanks very much. Yum, 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 yum. You see, that hasn't affected the flavour at all. No, it's still got that lovely marzipan flavour, and we are going to be using that very shortly.
So it's out of the way.
Okay, pop it in the bowl. Michelle's instructing me. Any questions today? We are going to be pootling along. I'm going to use this same bowl and start to make my biscotti. Now biscottis are great. They're actually possibly one of the only dairy-free cookies that taste really good. So it's good if you can't tolerate dairy. Biscotti is really good. Cheers, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Monica Carver says, love your channel. Merry Christmas to you and your family too. Norman, Oklahoma, USA.
Merry Christmas, Monica. Thank you very much. So I am going to take some plain flour, just regular single, not strong bread flour. This is just regular plain flour, and it is just a supermarket brand, nothing overly special. And I want 250 grams. What is that in ounces? Michelle, will you check that for me?
9 ounces. Again. Still 9 ounces.
Still 9 ounces?
Yeah.
It's too early in the morning. Let me get some of that. Where's my coffee? So 250 grams, but this time we're going to go with slightly less sugar. So we're making a combination of flour and sugar, a little bit similar to our combination of, well, it's not similar. Let's scratch that. It's not really the same. I'm trying to make a comparison between this and marzipan. There really isn't. So I'm just going to add in here, just zero the scales, and I'm going to add 200 grams,
7 ounces.
7 ounces of castor sugar. Biscottis are great. Who makes it's, yeah, all-purpose flour, plain flour, all-purpose flour.
Amy's saying, is it from Aldi, the flour?
It's not from Aldi. It is just from the supermarket here, though. I'm not shouting out any brands. 200 grams. Let's just get it pretty accurate this time. So Biscotti twice baked. They're a simple biscuit, delicious biscuit. They taste really, really very good. And you basically bake them like a log, similar to a Stollen. And what we're going to try and do today, oh, Lisa, thank you very much. A beautiful super chat in gold. I'm getting all the Christmas colours. You're such a sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
I love you too, Lisa. So we are going to take flour and sugar, 250 grams, 9 ounces of all-purpose or plain flour, and 200 grams of castor sugar, fine sugar. I think, do you call it super fine sugar in the US? Super fine sugar. Again,
half a teaspoon of baking powder. Oh,
we want some baking powder. Now, if you are in a country that does self-raising flour, you could actually use self-raising flour, but it's probably easier just to use plain flour and add half a teaspoon of baking powder in there. Not baking soda, baking powder, because we want the slow reaction. We don't want it just to act with the eggs straight away. Thank you very much, Lisa. That is gorgeous. Thank you. So I'm going to break 2 eggs into this.
Into your bowl separately. That's a good habit you're getting into.
See, I've got lots of flour. Don't do that to me, man. I've got lots of flour and sugar, so I'm not too bothered if these eggs are bad, but I haven't got a lot of almond meal, so that's why I broke them into the other bowl. These ones are going straight in the mix. And these are good free-range eggs. But it's just good practice to, if you start, you know, if you end up using really expensive ingredients and you chuck your eggs in and they go bad, you are going to really kick yourself. Now, I'm not too worried. I'm using the same bowl, easy for washing up.
Okay, Sean said, Steve, you asked why it's called castor sugar, so I Googled it for you.
Okay.
There was a time when sugar was served in a shaker called a castor because you would cast sugar or pepper from it.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. So if we were to use like a caster, a little shaker like that, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's obvious in a way, because when we talk about casting something, if you cast a rod or cast something aside, or cast, in your mind, you're thinking it's something like that. But thank you very much for checking that for us. Now, that is it basically. These are the ingredients that you need for biscotti. They're very simple. I always think with a lot of Italian recipes, a little bit like making pasta, it often starts from very simple and basic ingredients. Now, you will find when you start to make biscotti, you want large eggs. For this particular recipe, you want large eggs. It will look a bit dry, and you might think, wow, this isn't going to bind together. Can you see that? Now it doesn't matter. You can see in the small camera up there. It looks a bit crummy. Now there's a good chance this recipe will fail because I've never seen anyone put marzipan through the centre of a biscotti before, which is what we're going to do today, and we've never tried it. So you're winging it with me. So it feels kind of crummy. It feels like it won't bind together, but I am going to just work it with my hands and just sort of pull it together until I get what feels like a fairly stiff dough. So, Trav Tweet, what?
It's good to know how the caster sugar is, why the caster sugar is called that. And Critter T said, I was watching a live stream a few weeks ago. Folks were doing $25 or $50 donations, must have gotten $1,000. I felt poor, so I left without saying a word.
Oh dear. Look, I would not expect anybody to donate. The reason we are asking this year for people only if you can afford, right? This is not, YouTube is meant to all be about free, and everybody knows that. We all know it's all about producing stuff for people for free. But you've got to make a living nowadays. The YouTube income has drifted off to almost nothing. We love doing this. If people do have the capital to help us, it's great. If it's great, but we don't expect it, and I don't want anyone ever to feel obliged to. But it's wonderful when you can, and that's all it's about, really. So you can see already that this is starting to bind. At one point, you start to think, oh, this isn't going to bind together, but now it's becoming how I would have liked my marzipan to be, actually a little bit firmer. So we've got two products that feel quite similar. So just be patient. You don't want to overwork the gluten in this. It is a fairly tough cookie, but the more gluten we develop, the tougher the cookie will get. But the whole idea of the biscotti really is not to just sort of eat it, although we do, Michelle and I. It's to dunk it in your coffee, or I think that's the tradition. So now I want to get some fruit into this and some nuts. Was there something else there?
Travel Tweet says, Merry Christmas, Steve and Michelle.
Merry Christmas, Travel Tweet. I have got some cranberries. I don't know if they'll show. So I want to put cranberries. These are dried cranberries. They look beautiful on the packet, but when you actually get them out of the packet, they're quite dark. So I've soaked them in hot water for 10 minutes just to plump them up a little bit. You can actually soak them in cranberry juice. I thought that might be an idea, but I haven't got any. So we've got 100 grams, Michelle, did we use in the end? 100 grams. So there'll be a little more than 100 grams now because they've plumped up.
3.5 ounces.
3.5 ounces of cranberries. I am going to put in a similar amount. I'm going to hand these over to Michelle to see if you come and say hello, Michelle.
I am here. Hello. I just opened the pistachios and then they can disappear.
Now the beautiful thing about pistachio nuts is the colour, isn't it? It's kind of like that lovely green that you get with pistachio nuts. So it's cool if they can be peppered through the. I'm going to dip these in chocolate, by the way, these biscotti as well. So they're going to be pretty delicious. So I'm going to pop about a little under 100 grams of pistachios in there as well. So look, in the bowl we've got pistachios and cranberries. They do look a bit brighter, look a bit dark in that picture. That would be nice. It would be nice, if you can consider joining Patreon. We have some wonderful people on Patreon that support us. It would be great. It's patreon.com/Steve Owens. If you want to become a Patreon and support the channel, it just helps us. This year we'll be traveling all around Australia. We get very little income from YouTube. I mean, to be honest, if either one of us did a minimum salary job, we would earn more money. But we do it for fun. We do it on a budget, on a shoestring, and Patreon really does help. So yes, thank you, Leslie, if people want to, you know, even as little as $1 a month is good on Patreon, just something to help us. We're going to try and get a drone this year. That was going to be our Christmas present to each other, wasn't it? We were thinking of getting a drone, because when we drove up from Melbourne to Canberra along the coast, it was beautiful. I don't want to overwork this, Michelle.
No, I think your cranberries were damp.
My cranberries were damp, so I'm going to need to dry this out just a little bit. Generally, this dough would be perfect as it is, but I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of flour onto my bench.
Hi Tara, hi Leslie, they're both saying hello to me. So I'm saying hello back. Sean says, what did I miss? Is this good with black coffee?
Yes, biscotti is good.
Flour all over your computer.
Flour all over my computer. Haha, never mind. Another expense I'll need to replace the computer that's full of flour. So yes, it is wonderful. Thank you for mentioning that, Leslie. If anybody watches on a regular basis and does want to contribute on Patreon, we are very pleased for you to do so. And it's just a simple platform which helps YouTube creators to carry on doing what we do. And you know, even the smallest amount, if you wanted to do it. And again, I think, as I said before, it's not important. We still want people who can't afford to do that to be able to enjoy it. So the show will always be free. I think I might add another, because I soaked those cranberries, it's made my dough a little wetter. So
Sean says, of all the channels I watch, I most likely would support yours if I could.
Thank you, Sean. And that's all that matters to us. The fact that you come on and you get involved in the community, that is really important. And if anybody, you know, if you can support the channel financially, look, it's always uncomfortable talking about those sort of things, particularly on Christmas, when it's all about sort of meant to be giving, which is what we try to do. I'm going to divide that dough in half. I'm going to divide it in half for this one.
You said you were going to do one big one. Got the big tray.
Right, hang on, see that? By the powers of magic, I'm going to put that dough back together.
See,
normally I'd make...
Normally you'd edit that out.
Yeah, normally I'd edit that out. Bloopers.
So Pop's World said, hey Steve, I love your videos. And Linda Miller said, who stole your biscotti? Because it's stolen biscotti.
Somebody's... Oh, I'm overworking my dough now. This... My Stollen is going to Stollen my biscotti. I'm going to be turning this into something that shouldn't really exist, which is basically... Okay, so we're going to take the whole thing. I'm going to go ask Michelle to put camera down.
Okay, say goodnight to Florian. He's fallen asleep in front of the computer. Have a good start in the new year and take care.
Beautiful. Have a wonderful... My dough is a little bit wet. I don't want to put too much flour in with it because I'm developing gluten now and I really don't want it. So be wary if you do what we did, which is to soak your cranberries in water. Remember to pat them really dry, or don't soak them in water. So I'm just going to shake this out. It's a little bit like shaping out a shortbread cookie or something. You don't need to do it with any equipment. I'm just going to shape this out to an oblong. And this is where we're completely blagging it because we have no idea, do we, Michelle?
No.
We have no idea what we're going to do here. But what I want to do is just pop that over there.
So Charles Lewis says, I love biscotti with coffee. It goes together so well. Biscotti
and coffee. Biscotti. Now, got my marzipan. Now, normally with Stollen, how much are we going to need, do you think?
About that much.
About this much. With Stollen, you have a nice, you should have some marzipan rolling through your Stollen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a piece of marzipan about the same size, maybe the thickness of one of my chunky fingers. And should I go a bit thinner than that? Yeah, I think I might go a little thinner because I'm going to put 2 if I can. So I'm going to go a little thinner. I want this marzipan to enhance the flavour So I'm just going to lay it in the center there. It's broken. As Michelle says, we could edit all this out if we wanted to. But to be honest, it may not work anyway.
That's
now,
right. In practice.
Yeah, this is me practicing with you guys, ladies. You know, I used to get into trouble for saying guys, but it's a common way we talk in Australia for girls or guys. So, anyway, so I put one in there.
So Sean says, Steve, never feel uncomfortable about it. It's not wrong to want/need an income.
Yeah, I understand that, and we're trying to get our heads around the idea because, you know, doing what we do here on YouTube. I mean, even these ingredients today for what we're baking, probably we won't make enough money on YouTube today to cover the costs of these ingredients, and it does make it a little bit daft. But we chose to do this. We chose to do this for the fun, and yeah, we do get to the stage where you feel you've also got to kind of you know, for the long term. If we're going to do this long term, and we've already done it for 3 or 4 years, or I think even maybe longer than that. So two pieces of, it's like making sticks of rock. 2 pieces of marzipan, and now what I'm going to do, I haven't got a clue what I'm going to do really. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it over, and encase that one piece. And now, following instructions that have never been made before, I'm going to fold that over, and I'm going to encase the second piece. So now we've got what I consider to be a little bit like a Stollen. Now I've preheated my oven to 160 degrees Celsius.
310 Fahrenheit.
That's 310. Is it 310 or 320?
I've got 310 written down.
I think it's 320. Michelle says 3. Let's check. 160 to me, I think, is about 320. Now I've just rolled that whole thing over.
320, you're right.
So 320. So now that piece of biscotti, well, it's not a biscotti, has got a beautiful core, 2 cores of marzipan through the center. And I think that's going to be absolutely delicious. But I got a feeling, because we've put marzipan into it and it's changed the water content, the liquid content of the dough, that it may fail.
Cook it a little bit.
We're gonna cook this for about half an hour. I'm gonna pop it on and I'll have a chat with you all. So, get myself a baking tray lined with a bit of paper. I'm just gonna lift that biscotti dough onto there. Bear in mind, this is going to grow quite. This is going to be a big biscotti, probably way too big. What are you doing there, Michelle?
I'm putting it back up.
It's there. It's already there.
Okay. It's not on my thing.
Is it not?
It is now.
Michelle's come back to make sure you can see me. So the biscotti is going to grow. I got a feeling this is going to be way too big. Normally this dough, I would make 2 biscottis and they'd be a perfectly good sized biscotti. But anyway, let's get this in the oven. Pop it in there, stop gassing. Stop gassing. It's actually an electric oven, so I can't be gassing.
WTGLB says hello. Do you want a timer?
Timer, please, Michelle.
Timer, okay, over here.
How should we
do it here.
Should we go 35 minutes? I'll keep an eye on that. It's going to go quite golden brown, and I want it to probably err towards a little more done because I think it's quite a damp dough today. So I'll probably do it for a little bit longer. Excuse me while I just get this off my hands.
So I'll read some of the comments. Leslie says, if you can't support them, please share the videos on Facebook and other media.
Yes.
You're being our little PR there, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie. Oh, Leslie's a sweetheart.
Yes. And Linda Miller says, thanks, I love your videos and I hope you have a great new year and meet lots of new friends.
Yes. We're meeting such good people on the road. Who said that? Linda?
Linda Miller.
Linda, we meet so many good people on the road. And, you know, this year, I think I'm going to be able to show you a little bit just what wonderful people we can meet in Australia. We've got a big tour. This is why we want to get the drone, actually. It's, you You know, these drones, everybody has a drone nowadays on any blog. But I can say that when we drove up the coast from Melbourne, that there was some beautiful, beautiful, actually, even just here where we are.
Well, we saw the kangaroos, didn't we?
We saw kangaroos. We take the dog for a walk up here, up to the park where we are, and the dog chases the kangaroos, and they're all bouncing away. And I thought, oh, it would be so good if we could just get a drone up. Not frighten the kangaroos, but at least see them as they're. Quite often you can't see kangaroos, obviously. I mean, ahead of us, it looked like there were 2 kangaroos in the long grass, and we're walking a friend's dog. And she saw the kangaroos and went chasing into the grass, and about 20 kangaroos sort of jumped up suddenly, and they're bounding across. It was really fun. But I'd love to film some of that. There's some beautiful scenery around here, and certainly as we drive across Australia in Eggy, our bright yellow Jeep, we're going to see some fantastic stuff, and I think we're probably going to have to get some aerial shots. So that's the plan. But those things are so expensive, those drones. They're more expensive here in Australia. I think they're about $1,000 in the US, and here they're almost sort of $1,500. So anyway, we're probably going to get ourselves one for Christmas, but we'll get it in the sales in the aftermath.
So Sean says, I do that too, Steve. It's a neutral term with me as well. Hey guys.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot more, but I got into trouble. Hubert, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Jan said, looks good. I just dropped in to say hello for a quick second. We just got home from Christmas Eve's church service, and now we're going to have lasagna. Take care, share the love.
Yeah, share the love, Jan. Oh, everybody, while you're in, hit that thumbs up button. Let's just get those thumbs up rolling. So if you're watching right now, just below the video, hit the thumbs up. Don't know what it does, but it sounds like fun. Share the love. Ta-dam. I actually had a beautiful logo done for me with the share the love symbol, but I haven't been able to use it. I think I might get some t-shirts made or something made with them on. Be kind of cool.
So Sean says, raisins soaked in dark rum with drunken cinnamon walnuts.
Oh, that sounds nice. Who said that? Sean?
Sean.
Wow, that sounds lovely.
And then Olivia Hendrickson said, it's so calming watching your videos. Hope you have a great Christmas.
Thank you, Olivia. Merry Christmas to you. Now, because my my dough was a little bit wet, everything made my counter all mucky. So I'm just going to scrape that up. But everything here is edible. I know it's raw eggs. We don't mind raw eggs. But I'm just going to give that a quick scrape up.
So Sally Black says, hi Michelle and Steve, you two make great videos. I did your pickled onion plus your mincemeat, yummy both. Thanks both.
Thank you, Sally. Merry Christmas to you. I hope everyone's having a good time. Is everyone going to have a wonderful Christmas? Are you all fans of Christmas? I must admit, Michelle and I, as the kids have got older, we do less and less at Christmas time. But I hope you're all having a good time. I think it's probably Christmas Eve with most of you, or Christmas morning if you're our side of the world. But if you've got any little stories you want to share with us about your Christmas, we'd love to hear. Just type them down there in the bottom. So
Famo59 says, hi Steve, Merry Christmas. Now going out, have thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
And then Sean from Canada says, Steve, I do graphics work as a hobby. Let me know if I can help you design anything for the channel or merchandise.
Oh, thanks, Sean. Thank you, buddy.
Charlotte says, do you have Boxing Day in Australia?
Drop me a message, Sean, because I can always sort of, if I remember, we have got a nice sort of share the love thumbs up in a monochromatic design, which looks kind of good. But you can drop me a message so I can remember. What was that last?
Shah says, do you have Boxing Day in Australia?
We do. Do you know what Boxing Day is all about, Shah? Well, you probably do. I'm going to say anyway. Save you typing. And Boxing Day was the day after Christmas, when it's often to do with when, I think it might even be a Victorian tradition. It's when the day after Christmas, when they used to box up things for the servants. So they would box up not really gifts, it was more to do with sort of leftover foods and unwanted gifts and things. They would put it into a box and they would send it down to the downstairs upstairs, downstairs scenario. So I think that's the tradition of Boxing Day.
Sean says, should have had it.
Sales, yeah. It's not about sales, Char. It's not about sales, but
we might get a drone in the sales. I don't think so, but
we might get a drone in the sales. We're holding up. We're holding up to see if the drones drop for after Christmas in price. I suspect they don't. I actually had a chat with someone about that. They reckon that the companies now, their sales pretty much run all year round. So you're probably not going to get a great deal. This marzipan is delicious.
So Sean said you should have added crushed graham crackers instead of flour.
Yeah, I could have
didn't
done.
have any.
I haven't got any graham crackers. You know how hard it is. I've got to sit and make graham crackers because you can't buy them.
Famo59 says, Merry Christmas to you both. No kids, just the two of us. He said Wynnum pizzas, but I think it's wine and pizzas. I mean wine and pizzas.
FOMO59. Oh yes, I'm having a little bit of it's a Pinot Chiron. I don't know. It's like a fortified wine. It's not a sherry. It's not as heavy as a sherry. It's quite nice.
Critter T says, do a Share the Love magnet. I'll buy it.
Share the Love magnet. I'd love to do some stuff. You know, the problem is, Leslie, because Michelle and I started traveling, we just haven't had time to do anything. We kind of our own worst enemies because we're always so busy. We're not as industrious as some of these younger channels that have got all their gear, t-shirts, hats, berets, and everything going on. Michelle and I find it hard enough sometimes just to get the ingredients together to do our recipes, and then the editing and all the work we have to do to edit. So yes, Share the Love magnets. Make a note, Michelle.
I do. Charles says, I'm having a glass of red wine right now.
Chin chin, Char.
And Hubert says, I am the kind of guy to have a very unusual Christmas that might appear sad to you, but I'm having a blast, so thanks for asking. All is lovely.
Beautiful. Well, nothing is sad if you're enjoying it. I mean, I haven't got my family around me for this Christmas. We've got 3 children, wonderful kids. I mean, really, really great kids, and we won't be around them. But it's not an issue. They're very pragmatic. They're very pragmatic, and we'll just have a belated Christmas when we get together in January and have some fun. At Christmas we don't tend to do the big present things at Christmas. We've always kept it fairly simple because we tend to think birthdays are more important. Christmas is more about just, I think the truth about Christmas is, you know, people say it's all about giving. And it is all about giving, really, isn't it? It's kind of the joy of letting your children have things when they're younger is what it's all about. But it doesn't always have to be expensive stuff, you know, bulky, expensive. We don't all have to fall into that sort of trap of just needing more and more stuff. If I can share anything with anybody, it's try to make Christmas more about smaller gifts and doing things for people rather than actually just getting the latest gadget like a drone. Who would do such a thing? Who would get a drone? Such materialistic people.
Sally Black says thumbs up all in the chat.
Thumbs up. You did thumbs up all in the chat?
A. Gordon was timed out by a Nightbot. They said Merry Christmas, but it was in capitals, so sorry about that.
Who said that?
A. Gordon.
Gordon?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's, you've said G-O-R-D?
G-O-E-R-D-I-N.
Jordan.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. Yeah, I think the Nightbot basically is being careful because capitals is not allowed. So, but thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you too. Sydney show's in. Sydney show back in Sydney. Went to Melbourne last week and dropped me a line and said they were in Melbourne, our city. Yes, I am having a little bit. By the time the end of the show, I'll probably be completely plastered because we've still got half an hour of cooking or so to do. Let's see what these biscottis are like. I'm actually going to take some chocolate melts and dip my biscottis in the melts as well, if they work. I should have done a second batch of biscotti because biscotti is actually really easy to make. I've probably overcomplicated it. Let's have a little look in the oven. Oh, it's huge.
Is it?
Look looking good though. It looks like a Stollen because it's doubled in width almost, and it's getting closer. So quite often I'll cut my biscotti at a diagonal. I think I'll be cutting these ones straight, otherwise they'll be as long as your arm. You'll be having to dip them in a pail of coffee just to make them usable.
So Nick Neff6 says Merry Christmas.
Nick, Merry Christmas to you.
And
Could 1, 2, 3, 4 on all those, Merry Christmas.
okay.
Kutan.
Sean says on Boxing Day I tried to do a dinner with the homeless in my area.
How do they cook up, Sean?
And he also said, you asked me to message you, I cannot find an email address.
Sean, there is an email address on my About page. If you go to the channel, there is an email address on there, or you can just drop me a message on Facebook as well, buddy. That's an easier way sometimes. I've got all cooking stuff over my laptop. That can't be good for it. I'll probably go to do something and there'll be bits of marzipan falling out the keyboard.
So Sean says tender. That's how they cook up.
I'm teasing you, Sean. That's a very good thing to do. I think actually Christmas it brings out the best in people, doesn't it? I know when we've ever it is nice to give, and it's nice sometimes to give without expecting to receive as well. Anyway, let's keep this light-hearted.
So Charlie says my sister-in-law makes biscotti and they're lovely.
Yeah, I love biscotti. Actually, we had biscotti earlier in the week, and it's what started me thinking about this process, because I thought, well, biscotti, it looks a little bit like a Stollen, and now I'm making this Stollen, or whatever we want to call it. I forget what I called it on the video.
So YTA says, OMG, Steve, Merry Christmas. I cook your gyro kebab recipe all the time when I'm at university. Haha, much love, Dave.
Dave, Merry Christmas to you.
Glad to catch you live for the first time.
The gyros, or the gyro, whichever you call it, it's gyros or gyro. I'm not so strict about the way we comment. Some people get very, very tetchy about that, but as long as you're enjoying it. And that's the kebab. Is that the one where we made like, it's almost like a meatloaf, and then you slice it? Because when you think about it, the kebab rotisseries that you see where they make the kebabs and they're rotating, in some countries they use slabs of meat and they put it on there. In some countries they use almost like a sausage meat and put it on there. So we've recreated that kebab in a baking tray, and then you slice it up and put it into I think I would have made homemade flatbreads, because I generally do. I hope I did anyway. We got lots planned for the new year, by the way. Really some fun stuff. I know a lot of you like the Malteser cake, but we've got some more of our... I haven't eaten this morning, by the way. I made this... I'm like a squirrel jumping from topic. Overnight oats with some beautiful fresh mangoes. Look, the mangoes. Mangoes are nice. Calypso mangoes. They're nice this time of year. So, where was I?
I don't know. The Sydney show says, Merry Christmas, Steve. Thanks for the shout out. And Sean says, I'll Facebook you. I don't see an email on the about. Everything else is there. It is there. I can do it. Be on the lookout for a message from me, Sean Evans.
Okay, Sean. It's social media at steveskitchen.com. Well, it should be there, but it doesn't matter. Facebook is just as good. Patty's in. Hello, Patty. What's Patty saying? I'm not going to read that because I'm going to have a quick...
Okay, Merry Christmas, Steve and Michelle. Enjoy your weather. Maine had a sleet and snowstorm. Saturday, another big one. Tomorrow, with possibly 12 inches of snow on Christmas. Have a great day.
We've got 12 inches of sandstorms. No, we haven't, but
Ashley says, heading off to lunch with O. We'll tune in again once I get there, maybe. Chat with you later.
Ashley, that is my son, by the way, my youngest. Love you, bub. Be good. Have a wonderful day. He's off to have Christmas dinner with my eldest. Have a great time, guys. Love you heaps and heaps.
So Hubert was timed out again for capital. Sorry about that. I think he said call it Stollotti.
Stollotti. Stollotti. We might have to call it complete and utter disaster. As I say, we've never cooked this before, so we're actually you're learning. And if it works, maybe I'll make it into a video. Here's the weaknesses, right? Biscotti is a fairly fairly stiff biscuit, so you can hold it up and you can dip it in. But I put a weakness, like a physio, like a weakness throughout the biscotti. That could be a problem. We might find that when I go to cut it, it'll just all fall to pieces. We'll see. I mean, I've baked with, when I make my Easter cake, I've baked with marzipan before. What's the name of the cake? Anyway, and it bakes really well, and it does bake a little bit like a dough, but it's got a weakness to it, so we'll see whether or not the biscotti holds together. It's looking good. I can't really show you, can I?
Still got 18 minutes. So.
Yeah, still got 18 minutes, so you'll see it when it comes out.
Sally Black said, do you both eat all the food you cook?
Yes, we do, but not all the sweet stuff that we cook. We try to give most of that away if we can. You know, if we like the Malteser cake, we can't cut that and eat it. Michelle and I, it would just be terrible for us health-wise to eat all that. So we'll wait until we're with a big group of people, family, and we'll divide it up so it makes it easier. So yes, but there's nothing I don't eat. There's nothing I don't enjoy, and I rarely actually. I can't put my heart into cooking something that I couldn't enjoy and eat.
Leslie says, I have to go. Merry Christmas and love to you both.
Love to you.
Merry Christmas, Leslie.
And Leslie, thank you for being a patron as well. And thank you very much for being my my PA, my personal assistant, and letting everyone know about Patreon. It is a good thing, and it does help us a great deal. And we do love the people that are able to contribute, even the smallest amount to Patreon. It is fantastic. Love to you, Leslie. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you later on. Hubert.
So Hubert said, I learned in the last year one thing. Failing is great. You find ways how not to get stuff done. So just get it done and we shall see.
Exactly, Hubert. And I think as life goes on, we realise more and more that just doing things. When I was younger, I was a perfectionist. Everything had to be done perfectly. What are you looking at me like that for? And that's not the best way to be honest. There's an element of doing things very well, which always stands with me, but sometimes just doing things also is more important. You'll often see people, you'll say, wow, man, that person's done that really badly, but they're doing it, you know, so just get on and do stuff, and you will get better and you will improve by experience.
So Seven Oaks said, hi Steve, I love your channel, Merry Christmas and love to you and Michelle.
Seven Oaks.
So Seven Oaks.
Seven Oaks. Pronounced Seven Oaks, I think, if you're actually from the UK and it's Seven Oaks. That's in Seven Oaks. The town of Seven Oaks has only got is there only about 4 of them left? Seven Oaks, Merry Christmas and thank you and welcome to the channel. By the way, a lot of you won't understand what I'm on about. There's a town in England called Seven Oaks. It's pronounced Savanax, I think. I'm probably wrong, and I think it's fairly famous because it's named Seven Oaks because it had 7 oaks in the centre of the town, and I believe there's only about 5. I think 2 or 3 of them have fallen down. I could be wrong, but if Seven Oaks knows, they'll let us know. So
Hubert says, same here, Steve. Perfectionism is a #1 strategy to a very unhappy life.
Yeah, perfectionism is actually there's a balance between. No, there isn't really. If you try to do everything perfectly, you'll always be unhappy because you can't do things perfectly, and you'll look back and see things that you've done and always find ways of improving them. It's often better to be somebody who just does things. Your abilities don't get better or worse for the want of trying. Well, they get better for trying. But yes. Just do things. If you have, you know, we have another channel. I don't post there anymore because I want to start putting our blogs back on this channel because I'm less bothered about whether or not people dislike them or not, because the channel's all about Michelle and I, and we want to share that stuff. But the other channel, if you haven't ever seen it before or subscribed to it, I don't put stuff on there at the moment. It's called Stepping Off the Edge. And what that symbolizes for Michelle and I is quite a lot. When we had a very young family, we lived in Asia, and we decided to take a leap of faith and just get off and start traveling. And everybody around us said it was the wrong thing to do. And we felt instinctively it was the right thing to do, so we just did it. We had no real plan. People would say, oh, where are you going? Where are you staying? What are you doing? You've got 3 children, they're young, you know, are you sure you should do that? Even the headmaster of the school, where the children went to school, said, oh, you know, I really advise strongly against doing this. And we just felt it was the right thing to do, so we took that step. And we've done this a lot in our lives. We took that step, and things tend to work out. Now, I don't want to advocate to everybody, you know, do crazy things, but you do tend to find in life when you step off the edge that you find something to cling on to. You don't just sort of plummet to the, or you find wings and you fly. Doing things that you've always felt you would like to do, it doesn't always end up being super comfortable, but it certainly ends up being the right thing to do. What we're doing now is stepping off the edge. It's kind of to do with we're taking those risks. People say to us sometimes, oh, I don't know how you can travel like you do, and we say, well, we just do it, and it falls into place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. But we were watching there's a great TV show. I don't know if you can get it around the world. It's called Starting Up and Starting Over.
Something like that.
Starting Over and Starting Up. It's a UK based thing. It's probably one of the BBC shows, and it's about people who just step off the edge. They go and do crazy things. We watched one a day or so, and the girl was a nanny. She was living in London, and she'd been 27 years or 17 years, I'm not sure, of being a nanny looking after children. She decided to leave London and go to the Orkney Isles or somewhere up in Scotland. John O'Groats. John O'Groats. She'd never been there before, and every fibre in your body says, oh girl, don't do that, it's such a crazy thing. She went to John O'Groats, bought a farm, inexpensive, with 50 animals. She'd never kept animals before, and it was like a petting farm come sort of farm shop on John O'Groats, and she just did it. And you knew, every fibre in your body knew it was probably going to be really hard, really, really hard. And if you knew how hard it was going to be, but even though it was hard, it was, she had lots of, compared to a previous comfortable life of just going in and looking after the children, leaving goodbye, it was seriously hard. She was out in the snows were coming and the winds were blasting the doors shut, and she's got a little fire and she's trying to chuck logs into the fire to keep the house warm, and one of her goats died and she was really upset about it. But as you watch it, you realise she could not have done a better thing in her life, to have just lived her dream and gone on and done it. And I do think it's important that we sometimes encourage people to follow their dreams. And
Hubert says, oh, I hear you, Steve, and very right. So don't bother with people who tell you should not. What comes instinctively to you, trust your gut. I learned that the hard way.
Well, it's tricky because you want to tell people to do that, and at the same time you don't want to be responsible for people making disastrous choices, because there are times when you say, oh, right, I've got a wonderful job in the city, I'm just going to go off and live on a cloud somewhere in Orkney Isles or something like that, and it might not be the right thing. But there's nothing. I think one of the things that is quite poignant in our lives, after we travelled, we went to New Zealand with the children, and we were just travelling, and we heard a story of a lady who was in her 80s that was at Auckland University, and she was studying, I think it was psychology or sociology, and she'd become really popular with the other students. Now she was 87, I think, or so. She was getting on in years, but she'd become like the mother figure to a lot of the students there, and she'd done this degree over quite some time. She didn't rush it; she got it done, and towards, this is a bit of a sad story actually for Christmas. I don't want to upset you all, but you take the positive out of it. So towards the end, she passed her degree, and she was asked to come and do a speech when she went to collect her degree. You know, they have the ceremony, everybody does there. So she got up, and one of the girls had asked her, "Why did you do the degree at such a late time in life?" And she said, "Well, around me, there are so many of my peers and friends, elderly people around me, who complain that they have so many regrets." You know, they say, oh, they regret, they wish they'd done this or they wish they'd done that. And she said, the worst thing you can have in your life is too many regrets. And she said, one of the things I always regretted, that I'd never taken a degree, and I didn't want to end my life without having done the degree. So she did, and she did the degree. She actually passed away just a few months later, which is kind of sad. But what we took from that story is just that wonderful thing of just, you know, you do at the end of life, you do towards, as life goes on, you start regretting things, and there's nothing worse than having too many regrets. So I think it's important to live out those experiences sometimes, and not have too many regrets. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry.
Well, like Sean said, I did something crazy today. I jumped into a live chat with some amazing people, learned about Marzipan and the need for drones.
The need for drones. There's nothing like the need for drones. I would hate to get to the end of my days, Sean, and wish I'd had a drone. You know, can you imagine? A friend of mine, Dave in Michigan, got his drone a year or so back, and I think within about the first flight he virtually cut his finger off when he was trying to get the drone back, didn't he?
Yes.
Was it Dave?
Yes, it was.
And I've seen other people that have got drones and then flown them straight out and sort of lost them. You know, we'll go with. Are there more questions in there?
Well, Matt Hoffman says, "Lol, I guess I missed the story of the bread walking off. I hope that they enjoyed it." But it's still in the oven. It's not missing yet.
No, this is live. This is live. This is pootling along in the oven there. Pootling. Oh, how long's it been, Michelle?
We've got 6.5 minutes left.
6.5 minutes. It's looking a little dark.
Oh, that's okay because it's got to dry. Let it cool.
We're gonna go the whole hog. I might even go a little bit longer. I'm really worried that this is just the moisture from the marzipan will have penetrated into the biscotti and made it really soft and cakey. Let's see.
So the real music master says hi, Steve.
Hey, music master.
And Hubert said, well, sitting all your life in your security bubble is much worse in my opinion. Life is there to be lived, so try and dare.
Well, horses for courses as well, Hubert. Some people are very comfortable, and I have a lot of friends, so I want to sort of balance this up as well, because I don't want everybody to feel discontent from this. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. There's a lot to be said also. This is kind of swinging the pendulum the other way for being content and happy. And I think it's not so much about always jumping off the edge, which, you know, it's about being content with what you've got as well. I think if you can find that level of contentment, it's important. So,
Sean said, Hubert, some of us wait for those pearly gates, others look at them from afar and nudge their buddy saying, betcha I can jump that. Always use common sense, but always press forward.
Yeah, always, you know, there's those old saying, everyone knows, I can use all the cliche sayings, you know, live today as if it's your last day. You often meet people that have had like an experience that can be a sort of near to death experience that then completely change the way they live their lives. I think sometimes if you can kind of not always have to wait for something disastrous to happen, marzipan. You want a bit, Michelle?
Yes, please. And that's what Hubert's saying, so well, right fitting down my alley and very right. So do now before regretting later. And, you know, in most cases, you can go back from a risky decision. Yeah,
in most cases you can, but in some cases you can't necessarily go back, but you wouldn't want to. You know, life is fantastical, really. It's exciting, it's interesting, and I think it's important that that you enjoy whatever it is you do. So even if you are doing something that many people might consider to be mundane, or another person might consider to be mundane, if you're enjoying it, then you're doing the right thing.
The real music master was getting concerned that you weren't saying hello, but then you said hello, so that was all right.
Sorry, because I was yakking. And drinking a little bit of this. It's not a schnapps. It's from a region in France where we used to live. Now, talking about stepping off the edge. Okay, for example, Michelle and I were driving through Europe looking for a place to settle down for the winter with our children. Here's a little story. Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. So we're driving through Europe looking for a place just to settle with the kids. We were homeschooling our children at the time, and we'd been past a house, and it was a pink house, a pink farmhouse, and it was available for rent, but I don't know. We were still searching. So we were driving around Europe, and this was in France. The house was in France, and we'd been down to Portugal, and we'd looked at houses in Portugal. We'd been to Croatia, had we been at that time, to Dubrovnik. We'd been to Italy. We'd been driving around, and it was getting cold. The winter was starting to come in, and then we said to our children, where would you like to stop for the winter? And they all said the pink house. You know, they all said, come around here, Pinky, come around here. So they all remembered and loved this little pink house. It was a farmhouse, just like this, a little pink house like this.
Not quite as pink as this.
So it wasn't as pink as that. And so we said, okay, let's drive back and see if the house is still available. And we drove back and the house was still available. And we said, we'll overwinter here. We'll get some stuff done. And we took the house. It wasn't expensive, super cheap, in rural France. And we ended up staying there for about 4 or 5 years in the end, and it was just fantastic. And we became farmers. You know, we became self-sufficient in many ways. We ended up keeping our own pigs and sheep, and we were teaching people how to cook. We're teaching the French how to cook, of course, because that's what you do when you're in France. We were teaching about Italian-style charcuterie. We were teaching about how to make sausages and bacons and things like that. We had our own, but that was, where was I? Why did I start that?
I don't know, but the children went to school.
And my children all learned to be fluent in French, which is very nice.
I don't know where you were going with that.
I don't know why I started that story.
Yes. So Sean says, sometimes if I have an odd day, I like to load up your channel and admire your colourful chef jackets.
Colour is another thing, I think. Who said that, sorry?
Sean.
Sean. That's also a little bit about non-conformity, Sean. It's about not trying to conform. Even when I was in the corporate world, working in the corporate world, I tended to be a little bit eccentric. So I just bring that on.
So Travel to Eat says, I love the jackets too. And Hubert says, they are a great thing about this channel, aren't they?
I hope you like the waistcoats as well. These are kind of colourful and they're easier for me to take on the road with me. Charlotte, we've been in Australia. We are Australian citizens. We've been here for quite a few years, 9 years or more. We've lived in different parts of Oz. But we've lived overseas as well, so we kind of we do come backwards and forwards. Melbourne, Australia is home, but we are equally as happy living in other countries. Any other questions we've missed there, Michelle?
No,
have a quick scroll. How many minutes have we got left?
Yeah. None.
None minutes. A whole lot of none minutes. Let's have a little look and see how the Stollen is behaving. You know, it's looking good. Oh, it's looking good. I like the colour. We're both sort of,
It's because that's the marzipan, but it cools.
The colour, I wouldn't want it to go much darker than this, but what I'm going to do is let that cool down, and we'll see.
We'll push it together. Toast it.
We don't have, they don't have to be perfect. You see how big that's become? I mean, I don't know if you can scale that, but normally I would, the Stollens would be maybe a little bit narrower, and you cut them in diagonally, but these ones are going to be, it's a little bit cakey, Michelle.
Well, that's because right there where you're touching is where the marzipan is, I can see. So really...
You can see the two cores of marzipan, so let's see. We're going to have to let this cool down. I'm afraid you won't.
Leave it there. Cool.
Leave it there.
Yes.
Don't put your hand on it. That is hot.
So Travel to Eat says, how many countries have you lived?
Many.
Lots.
Lots of countries. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. We have lived in some pretty unusual places. We had a wonderful time. We lived in Sri Lanka for for a year or so. And Sri Lanka and India is really dear to us. We've got a lot of experience in that part of the world. And
Angeli's in. Merry Christmas, Steve.
How? Anjali is in India, so but you know, we've talked about this with Anjali before. We do have we lived in Sri Lanka, which is not India, but it's what they call it, the teardrop of India. At the bottom of India, you've got this beautiful teardrop. It used to be called when they first discovered Sri Lanka from Europe. It's not like they first discovered it, but when the Europeans first discovered it, I think it was the now I'm saying Europeans, but it wasn't Europeans, because the Egyptians, and they stumbled across it almost by mistake, and they called it serendip, or from the word serendipity, which means to come across something beautiful almost by accident. Serendipity. So the original name for Sri Lanka was, before it became Ceylon and then became Sri Lanka, was Serendip, because it is a beautiful island. It is so gorgeous, and it is such a naturally rich in fish and fruit and vegetables. Everything grows there. It's such a beautiful place. So we lived there for some time, and we learnt a lot about Sri Lankan food and culture, and we travelled a lot into India, and we've got family as well who are from Indian families, and we've learnt a lot about Indian food and Sri Lankan food and from that area. I also have loose connections with northern India as well, so we've got just a love for the food for that area. So that's, you were asking where we lived. We've also lived in Hong Kong, which is now part of China, or technically will be part of China in a number of years. But we used to travel into China a lot, so I've got a great deal of love and interest in Chinese food. Obviously, we haven't lived in the USA or Mexico, but we've travelled there quite extensively, and we just loved the food. We've lived in a few places.
So Matt Hoffman says, I would trade you cold and snow for a good story of your travel.
A story of my travels. Okay, I'll tell you you can't, hang on, what, you're going to give me cold and snow for a story?
No.
No?
No, yeah, I'm not going cold and snow.
That's not a very good trade, Matt. You're going to give me freezing cold and snow for a story. I'll tell you a little story. Michelle and I were driving, this was in a book I wrote, which I never published. Probably never will publish, but maybe one day. We were driving up the, it wasn't the Pyrenees, was it? Was it the Pyrenees?
I don't know what story you're telling.
Ah, she doesn't know, of course. I'm assuming Michelle knows exactly. So anyway, we're driving up. What are the range of mountains between just inside the Spanish border? It's not it might be the Pyrenees. And we were driving up, and when you drive up some of these mountain passes, quite often the roadside just completely drops away, and Michelle is petrified of that sort of environment. She won't walk up to the edge of a cliff, hates it. I'm not so bothered. I'm sort of So we were driving up, and Michelle is, because of the side that the cars are in Europe.
Pyrenees.
It's the Pyrenees, yeah. So she's on the side with the drop, and she's kind of like leaning into the centre of the car and feeling very uncomfortable. And I'm sort of like driving and winding up like something out of one of these sort of racing car drivers. What is it? Where the minis drive through the mountains. And then the meanders changed, and they were the other side, so I was going a little bit slower because then the drop was on my side. Anyway, we're driving up, and I saw this. It was, by the way, it was thick clouds. We're in the clouds. You could only really see a certain distance ahead, and I stopped because I could see in the distance this beautiful, the outline of the antlers of a stag. And I said, oh, look, let's get the kids. Oh, look, there's a stag. So we're sort of like, we're creeping up towards it nice and slowly, so not to frighten the stag that was in the lamps of the car. And as we got a little bit closer, you could kind of see written on the pedestal at the bottom of this carving of a stag, carved by Mandeus Pedro Algavia in 1684. It wasn't even a stag, it was just a carving of a stag. So that was a kind of funny story that always comes to mind. It was the anticipation that we'd sort of seen this stag in the mist. And we actually, that night we drove, we were trying to get to a town, and we actually ended up right on the top of the mountains in the Pyrenees. And it was way before your GPS and your Google Maps. So we knew this town was too far off to get to, so we actually just stopped and decided we would sleep in the car, get some sleep, and carry on in the morning. So we parked the car, plus it was a little dangerous, you know, so we thought we'd park out and everybody went to sleep. I can't tell the next story. Well, I can. We woke in the morning, and the car was on a big flat plateau on the top of the mountain, and there was a big dog outside the window, like a huge. It's a Pyrenees mountain dog. They're called. They're like a sheepdog, a Pyrenees sheepdog. And what happens in the Pyrenees? The Spanish the Basque or Pays de Basque. I think it's a Basque region, or it's maybe. Anyway, the farmers there send these huge mountain white Pyrenees dogs up with their sheep into the mountains, big herds of sheep, and they live with them throughout the winter, and they protect them from wolves and things. So there's no shepherd up there. It's just this huge dog and all these sort of like raggedy looking sheep that are a little bit like goats. And so the car, this huge dog's just stood there looking in through the window, and he's virtually up to the side of the car, and he's looking at us as if he wants to eat us. So we're all thinking, oh, gingerly, we better not get off. And this big flock of sheep started to come around the car, and then they went, it was a big, like a MPV style car, so they kind of surrounded the car, and then they gently moved through, and we're all sort of sat in there waiting, thinking, you know, nobody can get out because this dog, who just, he looked quite jolly. He was kind of, but the reason they put these big white Pyrenees is they match in with the sheep. So as I'm saying this, it's not making sense, because why would the wolves come if they couldn't? It'd be better to have one that sort of was in a yellow day-glow jacket in a way, wouldn't it? Because that would frighten the wolves off. But anyway, they match in with the sheep. So if a wolf comes to try and get them, these dogs can sort the wolves out. Anyway, slowly this herd of 200 or 300 sheep surrounded the car. So we were like a blue car in amongst a flash of sort of white sheep, and the whole time these sheep sort of went past with their little bells, ding, ding, ding. You know how that sort of Alpen sound of the bells sort of dinging? This dog was looking at us like he wanted to open the car door and eat us. And eventually, what felt like an hour or so, the sheep started to go over the mountaintop behind us, and the dog's still there, but as the last of the sheep sort of vanished, the dog ran and caught up with the sheep so we could get out. So it's a nice little story.
Well, Matt said regarding the snow. It's all I have right now. It's coming down hard.
Okay, well, send me some. I've told you a story.
And Travel to Eat says, Steve, you're a great storyteller. I love listening to you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Angeli. Anyone at Travel to Eat, Merry Christmas. Matt, Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a wonderful time.
Charles Lewis says, that's so interesting that you've done some travelling in your life. Good for you. That's great for the children. So what part of England are you from?
I like to think that I'm a Yorkshire lad at heart, but to be honest, I've never really lived in England. So, but my father comes from Yorkshire and my mother comes from Berkshire. So we've got a bit of a mixed family. But to be honest, I've never lived in England long enough to have a strong connection, other than the fact that that's where my family historically come from. We tend to think of ourselves as Australian, but we also think of ourselves as well-travelled.
Is it foaming up yet?
Going to let this firm up a little bit more, and then I'm going to slice it. Then we're going to biscotti it. Dax is in. What's that question by Dax?
I had Stollen once. It was slightly better than Christmas cake. Had Biscotti a few times, but then the fakers flooded the market.
Fakers? What do you mean, Dax?
Probably not real Biscotti.
Not real biscotti? I don't know, because I generally make biscotti. You've seen, if you watch this through, which probably none of you are likely to, I guess, but biscotti is just too easy to make.
Big enough to cut it?
It might be, yeah. Tiny little board. This is our travel board. Look, it's like a little, yeah, and I burnt it here. What did I burn that with?
Oh, the coffee pot.
We were in Sicilia, in Sicily. Not living, but we were there for quite a while, and I'd heated up my my mocha pot to make a coffee, and I thought if I took it off the stove and put it on here, it was like a branding iron. Straight away burnt a hole in our little chopping board. So I could get another board, but that kind of reminds me of Sicily.
So Hubert says, travel story time on my end. There's a mountain in Berlin with a big old ruined radar station on it, and I always wanted to check that out. So last year I was there and I went up that mountain.
Beautiful. Where's that? Who said that?
Hubert.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hubert, Michelle lived in Berlin as a child. She lived there, so she remembers the old Berlin. I've never actually been to Berlin. But, you know, when you see things and you want... Let's go back to what we said before, Hubert, and in a way, it's sort of like following your dreams. My dream at the moment is to ask my dear Michelle, my wife, if she'd make me another coffee. Because I probably should eat some breakfast, because I'm starting to feel a little...
Oh, there's a bit more from Hubert's story. It was such a hike, and I was quite proud when I reached the top. Well, no radar station was there. Instead, I saw another mountain next to the one I was on. I was on the wrong one.
Yeah, that happens, Hubert.
And we had to hike the next one too.
Isn't that funny? That's that wonderful mountain story, Hubert. I'm sure it's great. Where you go up and you think, oh, there's the peak. I'm at the peak, and you're sort of climbing up, and you get there, and it's the peak's on and on and on. Because there's this strange thing when you climb mountains that the peak often looks to be, when you stood a long way away, you can see the peak, but as you get closer, new peaks appear. Right, so I know, I feel your pain getting to the top there and thinking, oh, I'm there, I'm going to be on the oh, now I've got to go back down this dip here and up again.
And just before I make this, Wendy Johnson says, Merry Christmas, Steve and Michelle. Sorry late, was putting together gingerbread house.
Who was that?
Wendy Johnson.
Hey, Wendy. Merry Christmas. Gingerbread houses. I haven't made a gingerbread house this year, Wendy. So, are you doing it? Are you doing it with children? Are you doing it for the children? Look, Dax, Michelle and I have known each other since we were very young, and we both have quite a strong connection with Germany. We both lived there as children, and we both, although we lived in different parts of Germany, so I can't tell you any stories about Berlin from her, because she's busy making my coffee.
I was only small.
She was only little, so she doesn't remember all that much. But one thing is for sure, different parts of the world have strong...
Noise.
That's okay. Different fresh coffee, grinding fresh coffee. It's one thing that we have always appreciated was really good fresh coffee. And unfortunately, because of that, you're going to have to listen to coffee grinding and Michelle frothing me some milk. Because even though it's a live show, I'm still going to insist on a good coffee. Wendy says she's making it with 3 kids and they've already started eating it. When I did my gingerbread house here on YouTube, my youngest boy was already of that age where he could behave himself and probably wait. So he's actually in that video. I think it's the only video that Ash, my youngest lad, is in, and he helped me. There's a time lapse of us decorating the gingerbread house, and I always said, I think with a good friend of ours, Anne from Easy Gluten Free, she's got a gluten-free channel here on YouTube. We always remarked at the time that making a gingerbread house is quite a feat, you know, to make it the whole, you know, bake the pieces and put it all together. Making it and filming it is just foolhardy. It's just a lot of work. So let me just see. Michelle will read the comments in a minute. I can just see Hrafnan Nordri. Now, you told me your name just a moment ago. Was it Sean? Sean? It is Sean.
No, did tell me what that meant.
Did you tell Michelle what that meant?
Yeah.
You see, I can't read the comments too clearly, Sean. So, rice. Thoughts about rice pudding. We used to have it for the family tradition. Any tips on making it and different flavour options? Well, rice pudding for me. Let me get some. The reason I want a coffee is because I'm dry, but I must have some water. As a kid, rice pudding was all about the top. You know, it was about getting that sort of crispy, not crispy, but there's a saying, isn't there? If somebody's particularly weak, we say that they can't pull the skin off a rice pudding. But the top of the rice pudding is where all the flavour is. Hirafan is raven and Nordri is north. In what language? They're Norse words, are they? Okay, cool. Raven North. So, yeah, the top of the rice pudding, it's a bit like a crème anglaise or you want those sort of, what was the other one we have for the top of the
Crème caramel.
Crème caramel, yeah. Rice pudding, okay. Rice pudding, it's about getting some sweetness into the rice. Rice pudding rice is very similar to Japanese sushi rice in a way. It's a short grain, stubby rice, very glutinous. And when you cook it through, it's about cooking it with the right, don't use skinny milk. Don't use skinny milk because you might as well use regular milk and add a load of water. And you want full cream milk, you want even cream in there. Thank you, sweetheart. Isn't that good? Look at that. Hang on. No money, can't leave a tip. Chin chin, everybody. I actually should drink some water though. So yes, back to rice pudding. It's about using full fat creams, sometimes even cream, and you cook the rice in the cream. Some people, in the old days, we used to also use carnation milk or a condensed milk, not a sweetened condensed milk, by the way, just a condensed milk. And then it's using the right spices in there, and you really want nutmeg, and you want cinnamon in, but nutmeg particularly goes beautiful in rice pudding. So you're getting those sweet spices. Even a little bit of cardamom goes really quite nice, and getting those sweet spices. Now I'm a big fan of the Asian style rice puddings where they use coconut milk rather than just regular cream. That is delicious. If you haven't tried that before, use coconut milk. There's actually a black glutinous rice you can get in Asia. I've done a video on it. I'm not going to be putting links to videos at the moment, but there's a black glutinous rice that's made with coconut milk, which is just like to die for rice pudding. So it's about getting the right level of sweetness, not too sweet, the right rice, not overcooking it so it becomes too clammy. So it's still got some little rice beads in it.
It might need to cut that before it cools too much.
Oh yes. So over to the Stollen. This should have cooled down now. The Stollen. Over to the Biscotti. I'm going to put that on the edge of my keyboard. Let's bring it over. Michelle, just put your hand to them. Pull that paper off. So the bottom, yeah, it's cooked. It's a little bit overcooked, to be honest. And no, I don't think it's too cakey. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same tray there. I need a serrated knife. You really need to do biscotti with a serrated knife. Let's just turn the camera down for a second, so you get a slightly bigger view. Now, with a smaller biscotti, you would go at an angle, but by the time I get to here, they're going to be huge. So I'm actually going to try. I'm going to cut the little end off first, because that's the bit I want to try and taste. It is cooked. It is cooked. So this is still warm. It's important to do your biscotti whilst it's still warm. Little, by the way, don't do long slices, because if the serrated blade catches the nuts, it will crack the biscotti. Now that is looking beautiful. So I'll pop that biscotti back on the tray. Now, if you want your biscotti to be not super hard, then don't over bake it. We're going to bake this. Now look, that's looking gorgeous. Can you see the marzipan? It's those two soft areas there. They're two tubes of marzipan that are running through the biscotti. These are looking perfect, by the way, everybody. I was about to say guys.
Can't really see that tray that you're putting them onto.
Yeah, you will do in a minute. I'll bring. Okay, can you see those ones?
Probably.
Look at that. Hopefully,
yes,
you can see it. So I'm cutting them about just over 1/2 inch. They're a little softer than biscottis normally are, because they've got these two cores of very soft marzipan running through the center. I thought it might be a little bit too cakey, but actually it is not. It's probably just about perfect. So I'm going to lay them out, and we're going to bake these a second time. I'm going to bake them for about 15 to 20 minutes, but I'm going to turn them halfway, so just about 10 minutes on one side, and then I'm going to turn them and bake them to dry them out. And then we're going to have, oh, I should have waited for my coffee actually. So yes, it is very soft, but that is not underbaked biscotti. That's actually the beautiful marzipan, all that's on the knife there.
So Wendy says, looks delicious. Shah says, they look awesome. Sean said, looks so good, and you said you were going to dip it in chocolate too.
I am going to dip them in chocolate, and I'll probably do that on here, because why not? Might as well run the live stream. Some of you may have to go, it doesn't matter. I'll carry on.
And Hubert says, I had way too little marzipan this year, I just realised.
Look at that. They're looking gorgeous. And it's a big slab of biscotti. Really very opulent.
Green and red.
So look at the beautiful pistachios and the red from the cranberries. And then there are two, you can't really see it, but there are two holes there that are soft marzipan. Even Michelle's so excited, she's trying to get her head between the camera to have a look. Am I going a little bit thick? Oh, you can't beat this. These have worked out. Now, if I can come up with a name for these, I should probably actually do them as a recipe. So let's just get on and cut them quickly now and stop being so go a little bit thicker than. Now I'm going to save a couple of end pieces. These bits are testers. and also because the tray is completely full. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14 biscotti. They're going back in the oven, same temperature, 320 Fahrenheit, that's 160 Celsius. And I'm going to bake those. Michelle, could you just do a timer for...
10-minute timer.
10-minute timer. So we're probably going to go about 15 minutes, 20 max. And that's just going to bake the outside of the biscotti and dry it a little bit. It won't dry it completely.
So Harold Van Arkel said, Merry Christmas.
Back up to me. Now.
Oh, Leslie's back.
Harold. Leslie's back. Leslie, did you see the biscotti? They look really good. Leslie, they look so good. I'm excited now. Here's the end.
Travel Tweet says, I want the biscotti with a flat white. I'm taking orders, don't worry.
Yeah, Michelle's taking the orders down here. She'll be sending you the bill.
Travel Tweet says, black glutinous rice pudding sounds special. Which country was that from, Steve? Thailand?
No, from Malaysia. They do it in Thailand as well. It's actually a Nonya dish. And it's from Malaysia. It is so, so good.
So Seven Oaks said, have you written a journal of your life adventures? Any tips on cooking a fresh turkey? I've made mincemeat, but this one was made with pears. Absolute scrummy. Wow, lots of questions there.
That's a lot of questions.
Have you written a journal of your life adventures?
Not really. When we travel with the children, I did write the story of our...
Before internet?
Before the internet. No, the internet was around, but it was rubbish.
Oh, the packages were rubbish, weren't they, to get these?
When we first went travelling, I got myself a mobile phone. It was probably some piece of rubbish. Well, no, it was probably, at the time, it was probably okay. But I made one phone call. I remember we got to Portugal, I think it was, and I went to make one phone call, and it was like a 5-minute phone call, and it ended up being about sort of like $100 for a call, and I had to call them up and cancel the package because there was no way we were going to be able to get internet and any sort of roaming service back in those days. It wasn't that many years ago either, to be honest.
So Brenda Rigdon said, had a bit of a problem getting in.
Well, you're in now, Brenda. Welcome. Merry Christmas to you. So,
any tips on cooking a fresh turkey?
Turkey. Oh, my coffee's gone cold. I'm going to have to say, I'm going to pop that coffee aside to have with the biscotti. I'm going to warm it up a little. I don't like microwaving coffee, but I am going to warm it just a little bit because I want to test the biscotti. Turkey roasting. There are so many tricks for turkey roasting. I must admit, I do. If you want a turkey that is as moist as possible, the best trick you can actually do is to spatchcock the turkey. If you spatchcock, which means basically to cut the turkey up through the breastbone and flatten it out, you'll find that the breast meat and the leg meat cook at the same time. It cooks a lot quicker. It doesn't look as pretty, that's the only thing. Another great thing for I mean, people have all sorts of different methods. The problem with turkey is it's a dry meat when you roast it, so there are ways you can turn it breast side down to keep the moisture into the meat. You've got this big cavity inside a turkey, and it slows down the cooking rate of the meats around the bone, so it means you're cooking it a lot longer than technically chicken or turkey needs to be cooked. So by spatchcocking it and flattening it out, you can actually cook it a lot quicker and moisture. Another tip, in the past we've actually boiled the turkey so that the cooking's done in once it's boiled, and then you don't lose any moisture, and then you can roast it at the end. You can just actually salt and season the turkey breast. You need a big pot, mind you. We do have a big pot.
Oranges and lemons inside the cavity.
Oranges and lemons inside the cavity will release steam and help cook the inside, slow down the cooking time. There's lots of turkey tricks. In my choice of best tip for turkey would be to roast a goose. Because goose is just a nicer meat In my opinion, it's moister. It's got more flavour. The traditional turkey can be quite dry, and the other thing is to get to bone the turkey, which I've done in the past, which is actually to, and that's tricky though. I'd have to show you a video how to do that. It's a little tricky. You can take the whole of the bones out, so the turkey completely has no bones in it, and then you can stuff it, or you can do a turducken, or you can do a 7-bird roast. So you've got bird in bird in bird, and you can roast it. And then the beauty of a bone turkey is when it's cooked, you can just slice it across all the way through and get the whole bird gets eaten. What was the other questions?
Oh no, it says I've made mincemeat, but this one was made with pears. Absolutely scrummy.
Beautiful.
So Brenda Rigdon said cherry mishmash to all the kids here waiting for Father Christmas to come.
Is that Brenda? Is that our Brenda? I can't. I think it is. Merry Christmas, Brenda. Anyway, why did you have trouble getting in, Brenda? Was it just the links weren't working? Look, writing an autobiography, it'd be fun, but you'd have to have the time to do it. We have so many things to do. And an autobiography, you can't really do an autobiography unless people will be that interested, but one day maybe. They used to do, Michelle, they used to do a, what? How come you're typing, Michelle?
I'm just doing something else.
All right. So Michelle's gone off on a tangent, so she's left me here. So Shah, I'm going to deal with yours. You had a big family, so they did turkey and goose. Beautiful. I suspect we're getting messages from family and things and friends. So, which did you prefer, Shah, the turkey or the goose? Can you remember? I mean, the nice thing about goose is it really does hold its moisture a lot better because the style of the bird, it's a much flatter bird once you actually prepare it for roasting. I have to say turkey is possibly my least favourite Christmas meat. Sorry. I really like a ham, and we've been doing a big ham because you can get all that lovely flavour from a ham. And when we had our own little farm, we used to often do a cockerel, which was the biggest bird. Are you keeping a track on those comments?
Yeah, I'm just 2.5 minutes on the timer.
Oh,
I'm watching.
I'm going to turn them early. Michelle says it's 2.5 minutes. I'm going to turn them a little early. I don't want my biscotti to be too hard.
Here's the,
and then we can...
one to put on this one? Yeah.
Good. So... we've got them back out. Are the tongs around? I'm going to do tongs this time, although they're probably not too hot, to be honest. Let's have a little feel. Oh, they are a little cakey. Maybe I should have done them a little bit longer. No, I'm going to turn them over. They're cakey because, as I said to you before, they've got that core of soft, why am I saying marshmallow in my head?
Marzipan.
Marzipan in the centre. So I'm just going to turn them all over, and then they're going to go back in for another 10 minutes, and hopefully that's long enough to crisp them up, ready for me to do the last stage, which is basically dunk them in chocolate. And that's just a decorative thing, plus they're going to taste good. Could you give me another 10 minutes, Will? Thank you.
So Shah says I'm doing prime rib this year.
Beautiful, Shah.
And Sean said, I like 6-legged chicken. Use a roasting whole chicken and sew on the extra legs and cook. Great for when friends are over.
That sounds silly in a good way. Is there any comments I've missed there, Michelle? Because I haven't been able to read them.
No.
Wow. My coffee, I'm just going to pop that in the oven, just warm it through a little bit because I'm absolutely famished. Actually, I'm going to have a little bit of my overnight oats. If you've got any questions, now while I'm having a little of my breakfast at late o'clock.
10 to 1.
10 to 1. a little pregnant quietness. I've got to eat something. It's I'm feeling lightheaded.
I don't think we've missed any questions. Oh, Sonia Nathaniel says happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Sonia. Let me just get a little bit of fruit and carbohydrates in me. So, what is everyone doing for Christmas? Who's having turkey? Who's having ham? Who's having something bizarre? Oh, I can tell you another little story. With our family, with our children, we tend to say to them, what do you want for Christmas, rather than just go for the traditional turkey. And almost always, well, in the past, they've often said they'd like a curry. So we have had one or two Christmases where we've just done a really beautiful big curry, and we've made sort of naan breads fresh, and we've done all the raitas and dals and different types of veggie curries and things. So that can be a lot of fun.
So Shah says, wow, it's 8:51 p.m. here.
Yes, Shah. I hope I'm not eating into everybody's Christmas Eve. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, so Christmas is passing us by.
So Sean said we had ham here.
Good. Ham is my favourite. You know, there is a machine that was invented here in Australia called a toasty machine. Or we call it a Javel machine, but it's actually, you know, that toasty, the sandwich toasty maker. It was actually invented here in Australia, and I love after Christmas when you can actually start using up all the bits of ham and turkey and stuffing. Stuffing, by the way, I love, and you can start adding that to your toasty. So get a couple of slices of bread, put it in there, some cheese, a little bit of ham, bit of turkey, bit of stuffing, and then we'll have those toasties, you know, the triangle sliced toast. We'll have those for the week or so after Christmas until everybody is so sick of all that excess meat and stuffing and things.
So Brenda said I got booted, so that was why we couldn't get in.
Oh, sorry, Brenda.
And Hubert says, oh mate, I have filled my fridge to an ungodly level. Sausages, pasta, I shall feast like there's no tomorrow. Hey, I mean, I will lose all the gained weight during January 1st to January 6th. Right.
I vowed this year not to put too much weight on over Christmas, and I haven't put much on, but I put a little bit, so we're going to have to correct that.
So Brenda said we had ham tonight, taking the day off tomorrow.
Love ham. A lot of my American Italian friends have this. Is that a Christmas thing? The 7 fishes or 11 fishes?
Yeah,
9. Is it
9 fishes? 7?
Tell me about the fishes thing. That's not something we do here in Australia, but a lot of my American friends do this this fish thing on Christmas Eve.
Is it Italian in American?
I think it's American Italian heritage. Though I spoke to a lot of people in Italy when I was there, and they'd never heard of it, so I don't know quite where it comes from, but it's interesting. So they have a lot of fish at Christmas. That would be nice. We don't have any fish at Christmas generally, do we?
No. Well, prawn on the barbie.
Yeah, we don't tend to do a lot of the prawn on the barbie thing, but I mean, it's nice to have a barbie. It's nice to have to do your chicken or turkey and your. I know Angie, Fit Angie's, was doing turkey and ham on the barbie. Get the rotisserie going. With that lovely smoky goodness in there.
So Harold Van Arkel said it's 2:53 a.m.
2:53 a.m. Wow, you're in Europe.
Charles Lewis says, not at all, I love hearing the stories and the tips. And Brenda said, do you eat mashed carrots and neeps like we do in England and as I do in Florida now for my family?
You're in Florida, are you? Well, good for you for taking that old tradition of mashed carrots and neeps. I love to do Sweden carrot mash at Christmas time, and I love to then put it under, what do you call it in the US, the grill? They call it a broiler.
Yeah.
So we put it under the grill and grill it to get a nice crispy top. I love to make stuffing for the. Now I do like doing a turkey, and we've done turkey many Christmases, but I do love to put the stuff in. I actually prefer the stuffing quite often, which we make with ground pork and all sorts of seasonings and flavourings and cranberries and fruits and apricots, dried apricots. You can do all sorts of things in the stuffing. Usually quite a bit of sage because it's around that time of year. I do love the stuffing. I can feel my voice is starting to go, so I'm probably going to have to. How long have we been on?
Over 2 hours. We've
Okay.
got a chocolate those biscottis.
I've got a chocolate the biscottis.
Keep talking, Steve. Take some water.
Water.
So Hubert says, don't go crazy over it. I realise that gaining weight is okay when you realise you've enjoyed some great food over it. No bad conscience.
Yeah, I don't have a bad conscience, but there is at a certain age you do get to a point where if you put a lot of weight on, it's a much slower thing getting rid of it. So enjoy good food over Christmas, but don't eat to excess. There was a saying when I was younger that only eat until you're 80% full. I probably got it wrong, but don't eat until you've actually stretched and you feel really uncomfortable. That is basically stretching your stomach out and then letting it relax, and then you make a little bit more room, you stretch it out. You know, eat really good food, but never get to that point where you're so full. So there's the Christmas pudding theory gone wrong, because Christmas pudding is the last thing we have at the end of the Christmas dinner, and that is just like eating lead.
So Charles says, take a spoonful of honey for your throat.
A spoonful of honey. Where's that nice honey? Char, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take your advice. Help lubricate. Now this honey is gorgeous. This is Golden Nectar Original Organic Leatherwood Honey. I'll put it up there. And it's R. Stevens. So I've got a little bit left. So I will take.
So Sean says, Charles Lewis and I are in the same time zone, and he's never heard of the fish thing at Christmas.
Mmm.
Isn't that nice?
Oh, that's good honey. That's so floral. Can I? Okay. I'm going to be conscious of the fact that I'm being watched and get another teaspoon rather than double dip into my honey, even though it's only really me and Michelle that are ever going to eat this honey. This is gorgeous leatherwood. Mm.
So Harold Van Arkel said, all Polish people do carp for Christmas.
Oh, carp. Interesting, because that's a river fish, isn't it? Mm. A lot of people don't like river fish because it's quite muddy. But different parts of the world, I've had some really nice river fish if you get the right fish. I wonder what I suppose it's just the tradition, isn't it? Is it got a name? Are you from Poland? Who asked? Who said that?
Harold Van Arkel.
I don't. You're probably not from Poland, Harold, are you?
Wow.
Oh, that is so floral. How are we doing for time?
37 seconds. I'm going to go a bit longer.
I don't know. Let's have a little look. It's hard to say for sure because, as I say, they've lost some of their integrity because of the marzipan in the centre, but they're looking pretty good. See, I'd say they're done. Let me just turn the camera so you guys can have your opinion. I would say they're done, but they're feeling a little softer than they should. But you know what? I think it's just the marzipan, the extra moisture that's in them. So I'm going to let those cool down now. I'm going to let them cool down just a tiny bit, then I'm going to put them onto a cooling rack.
So Hubert says, well, it's been nice hanging out. Got to go. Have a nice Christmas and see you on the next video, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Hubert. That's it's lovely of you to come in. And I know it's a long show today. But we were doing this anyway, and I just thought it'd be nice to have you guys in, and anybody that has the time to pop in and say hello. It's all good. And also, doing it over a longer period means more people have the opportunity to pop in as well. Sometimes when we only do it for 45 minutes, an hour, people miss it.
So Sean says, Google says, Feast of the Seven Fishes. The Feast of the Seven Fishes, also known as, this is Italian, so Festa di Sette Pescili, is an Italian-American celebration of Christmas Eve with meals of fish and other seafood.
Exactly, and I found from my Italian American friends that they felt it was very much an Italian tradition from Italy. Now I think it's probably from a region of Italy, but not necessarily, because it certainly is not widely celebrated throughout Italy. And I say that because we were there last year at Christmas time, and we were talking to a lot of Italians, particularly in the south, in Sicilia, and they knew nothing about it. And they were saying, nope, that's not our tradition. So it's clearly maybe from a certain group of Italian Americans that went over there, but it's more celebrated now in America than it is elsewhere, which is often the case. These traditions come and go. Can you see those? Man, they look good. So this has been all about the biscotti. I actually was going to make some eggnog as well today, but I don't think I've got all the ingredients for it, so I probably won't. It's almost wine o'clock, Brenda. I certainly have been drinking a little bit too early myself, and I can feel it going to my head.
So Harold says, no, I'm from the Netherlands, but I have a good Polish friend. Carp is a hopeless fish with bones all over the place, as if it was put in a blender before they made it into a fish.
Well, carp is quite, from my experience of carp, it's quite a muddy tasting sea fish. So you've got a river fish, and it's an acquired taste, but carp from different parts of the world does taste different. You know, there are varieties of carp. And I have had it before where I thought, wow, that is absolutely delicious. I can't think where I've had carp where it's been superb. But carp, when I've had it as a youngster, never overly liked it because it is quite muddy, and which is often the case with many river fish. I figured, Harold, that you were either from that area, Holland, Brussels, or from the Scandinavian countries, rather than from Poland. Oh, it's been a long morning. It's been a long morning, but a fun morning. Yum yum. I'm still picking everywhere I can see a little bit of marzipan. I'm still picking away. Now, if anybody follows along with this, which they probably are not going to be doing, we've got these gorgeous biscotti. What are we going to melt this in, Michelle?
Maybe the white balls that are in the drawer?
No, I need something quite small. I want a bowl that's not too big in circumference, because we haven't got a heap of chocolate. And I'm going to go with my favourite, Cadbury's chocolate. And I'm just going to heat this in the microwave. I'm not going to do it over a double boiler.
Shah says you're going to need a nap.
I am going to. Oh, I'll need a nap, Shah. Sad, isn't it, when I get to that age where I might need a nap in the afternoon? But
nanny nap.
Nanny nap. I'm hoping this is microwave proof. Let's pop it in. I'm going to give that a little 30-second blast. Now, if this was a recipe video, which it is in a way, take a chocolate of your choice, melt it in a bowl. Were you going to do, thinking of doing, that other one was okay that you had, Michelle? Michelle and I are debating whether we're going to do some white chocolate. Yeah, the blue one, I think. I think so. Oh no, this one here. It's a nice size. Oh no, that's a soft earthenware. We want something a little firmer than that.
Oh, this one says
this one's good.
That one.
I'm back. We're trying to debate. We're running out of plates and we need something to melt some chocolate in. Yeah, these are firming up nicely now. Oh man,
No.
yeah, I think so. So let's just do the milk chocolate first. No, don't put that in yet. Until we've got milk. But I'm not finished with it. I'll be putting this back in again. So no, that's nowhere near. We're going to do that another 30 seconds. Now see, this is what it's like when we're cooking the recipes we bring to you. We actually clearly are not able to make every recipe in a 10-minute video. We're running around talking to each other, washing up dishes, sorting out plates, getting the ingredients. Nobody wants to see 30 seconds of a microwave going zzz. So, but today you are.
Oh, I wish I could get chocolate buttons here to melt.
Chocolate buttons. These are actually what we call chocolate melts, but they are chocolate buttons, and they actually are Cadbury's chocolate buttons. Chuck, the honey's doing well. Much easier, by the way, to be honest, and I'm being a little lazy, much easier to melt chocolate over water on the hob. It really is. If you've got a nice little, it takes seconds to put a small, just not much water in the bottom of a small pan and just put the bowl over. But today we're doing things, because the danger in the microwave is if you do it a little bit too long, you will burn the chocolate. Whereas on over a bain-marie, a double boiler, you can't really burn the chocolate.
Particularly white chocolate.
White chocolate can burn very easy, so that is even better to do not in the microwave. Michelle, do you want to pop the white chocolate in for 30 seconds? See if we can't prove ourselves wrong. So, wow, look at that. Can you see? Beautiful, beautiful chocolate. So, I'm going to take my biscotti.
Cool.
Yeah. And let's come down here. I'm going to dip it in at a bit of an angle. I'm just going to let it drip off a little. Now, ideally, and I may do this, we would want to actually just let these chill down in the fridge. So I'm just going to take a bit of milk chocolate. Michelle's prepping the white chocolate for me. I'm going to let the excess drip off. Who would like one of these? I wish I could share them. Will there ever be that sort of technology around? Maybe, maybe not. So I'm going to take all of these, I'm going to dip them in milk chocolate. And then I'm going to put white chocolate on the other end. So I'm going to top and tail them with 2 chocolates. Now, if you like dark chocolate, which Michelle does and I'm not that bothered by, you can go with dark chocolate. I do like high cocoa chocolate, by the way. They're looking good. Let's bring the camera back up. Is anybody still watching this? So, man, these are going to be lovely. Cup of coffee, flat white. Somebody said earlier on, flat white coffee. Flat white, by the way, is like a latte in Australia. It's the most common coffee that people tend to order. It's just it means milk without the foam on, and it's very, very popular here in Australia. Michelle, you can get on the comments because I see stuff flying up, but I'll do that.
That probably needs another bit more longer.
I'll do that. I can't read the comments, so Michelle will get back and see if anyone's asking anything.
So Brenda said, Steve, I made your Anzac biscuits this Christmas and made lots of my friends happy.
Anzacs are great, aren't they? I keep thinking whether or not, you see, there's rules about Anzac biscuits. There's laws. I could get arrested for even thinking of messing with them. But I do think a chocolate Anzac would be nice. Is that bad of me? Because there actually is there is an official Anzac biscuit recipe, and you're not meant to deviate from it. You're not allowed to call them cookies. They have to be called biscuits.
So Shah says, Michelle, you must love having a husband who is a chef. I do.
Michelle is a chef as well, Shah, by the way. She's just not as what's the word? She's more camera shy. She's not as I'm thinking the only word comes to mind is prima donna, but that's kind of putting myself down a little bit. She doesn't always want to be in the camera or want the limelight. So look, these are all now dipped. The last one.
So Sean says, we need a teleporter from Star Trek, then you can set a Patreon level for teleporter with Steve.
That would be good. That would be good. But at the very least, for not much money, and these are super inexpensive, you could make these cookies yourself. Now, I need to pop these in. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a little space in the freezer because I want to accelerate my acceleratometer from probably from Back to the Future. I want to speed up the rate at which these chill. Oh, that's not working.
And drip all the chocolate in the freezer.
Okay, that's not going to work because...
Too high.
No, it's...
That's that.
Tray won't fit in freezer. No, if you pull that drawer, will that drawer come out? No.
No.
Okay, we'll put them in the fridge. Second plan. We'll have to talk a little while longer.
No room in the fridge.
Disaster!
Hang on, we're working on it.
Michelle's working on it. It's Christmas, there's no room in the fridge, there's no room in the freezer. There's a giant...
Yeah, if I put that way, then you can put it on top of there. And then that doesn't matter, we'll make a mess.
And there's a giant Malteser Christmas pudding cake in the freezer, which is being saved for our Christmas dinner with the family. Is that a little overcooked?
No, I don't think so. That can go in the fridge now.
Reckon so?
On top of there.
Go on.
You go.
Michelle thinks this can go in the fridge now. I'm a little bit dubious. I will be back in 1 second. If I'm carrying this tray when I come back, it didn't work.
It will work.
If I'm,
I've got space.
Ta-da! So we need to chill it because I can't even hold the other end of the chocolate. I suppose if we were doing this for anyone other than ourselves, we might also temper the chocolate. But because we're not, I think this white chocolates have gone a little bit too over.
No, it's not as runny. Put some coconut oil in it.
no,
Mike Brooker says try the defrost mode on your microwave. It takes time. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Mike. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So Brenda says, Michelle, I'm what you call a kitchen conqueror. And Shah says, I have a Yule log for pudding. You're talking about Yule logs.
Talking about Yule logs. I think one of the earliest recipes I can remember making as a child was a Yule log. And I don't think I've ever made it on the channel. And I probably should. Maybe next year we'll do a Yule log, Shah. But, you know, the memory is not always as good as the mouth.
And Wendy says, wow, that cake wouldn't have survived here.
No, well, it wouldn't survive here. But I am full of discipline. Full of discipline.
So Linda Malnati says, hi, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, Linda.
Got some new people coming in.
Some new people. This is why I wanted to do a longer show today, so everybody had the chance. While you're in, hit the thumbs up. We're trying to get the thumbs up. What is it up at the moment?
38.
So more thumbs up. Let's get it over 40.
So Sean said, this has been my first live video with you guys. Great meeting you, Michelle. This has been great fun.
Thank you, Sean.
Really fun.
Hit that thumbs up. Mash that thumbs up. Let's get it over 40 likes. That'd be nice.
And Shah said, yes, Steve, make a Yule log.
Yule logs, you know, it's one of my sort of childhood memories, a Yule log, and I think they're great. And I don't know why I've never made it on the channel. I really don't know, because it's not complicated to make, with, to be honest, and fun. Kids love making Yule logs.
40.
Yes, 40 thumbs up. Keep going, keep going.
So Pet3784, what's your favourite Christmas memory?
Oh. Favourite Christmas memory? Oh, there's so many. So many.
41 likes.
I don't know what my favourite Christmas memory is. I think we've slightly overdone this, Michelle.
No, we can do some more, or we can put it into a packing bag. Has it gone hard?
That's the danger with microwaves and white chocolate. Once you go over the temperature that the chocolate melts, and it isn't really chocolate, as you probably should be aware, it becomes clumpy. And there ain't much you can do, because even now if we try to heat that, the structure of the chocolate itself has changed, and it's not chocolate, it's kind of coconut oils and things. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to be dissuaded. What I'm going to do, Michelle...
Ganache?
No, but that bowl, Michelle's just got a white chocolate ganache out of the fridge. I am not going to be put off. There's that little pan. I know. I've got a little pan here.
Yeah.
No, it's not that one. Bear with me, everybody. Small saucepan. Tiny bit of water. This is actually a chocolate ganache, but it just about fits in this pan. I know I've tried it before.
So Shah said that the likes were showing 43, and then Sean said, yes, 43, let's get him up to 50.
Get me up to 50.
I'm saying 42 on ours.
Hit the like button. If you're in there and you haven't said hello, do say hello. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I'll wish you a Merry Christmas straight back. So if you're lurking, you haven't said anything, come in and say Merry Christmas.
Tropic Lash says, Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Not even clocked out of work for 1 minute before I turned you on.
I'm going to cheat a little bit and use a bit of ganache with that extra white chocolate, and we're going to try and correct this, because I really want these dipped in white chocolate. So yes, please hit the like button. See if we can get it up over 50.
And Sean said, hi Tropic, hit the like.
Do you know, because I didn't have breakfast this morning and it's nearly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I've had a couple of these little schnapsy drinks. Man, that's gone to my head. Says he, drinking more.
Brenda says, I've seen quite a few rolled cakes that have been made so differently from when I made mine in domestic science class back in Liverpool, where I'm from.
Do you know, who said that?
Brenda.
Brenda.
Who's now in Florida.
Domestic science, that's exactly where I did my
domestic
first Yule log. That's why I can remember it as a child, making a Yule log. Isn't it great? Why is so many schools nowadays do not teach enough about domestic science? It's not really cooking, you know. There's not enough schools that even have the facilities. They're throwing so much money at the computer departments in the schools. It costs an absolute fortune. I used to work at a school in Hong Kong at one time, and I was privy to the amount of money. This is the early days when computers were starting to come into the schools, and I was privy to the amount of money that they were actually spending on the IT departments. And it was shockingly, I mean, it was huge. And so much of that money used to go into buying, decking out classrooms with good cooking equipment and things that were actually practicable. And I'm talking like many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars was going into the IT departments, and they were closing down the woodworking departments and the metalwork and the cooking, which was a shame. And so yes, I think it's kind of cool that loads of us.
Harold said, my son Yoris bought a big bag of chocolate buttons, 2.5 Ks, to practice making chocolates in moulds we have floating around the house in the next week. his trial run was chocolates filled with green curry. It was even good.
Green curry?
Yeah.
That's a great combination. I mean, like a Thai green curry. Very interesting. I'd love to try that. I love the combinations of sweet and savoury. Yeah, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but you know, chocolate and chili, it works well together.
So Charles said, what's that you're drinking? Sherry?
It's not a sherry. It's actually like a Pinot Noir. It's similar. It's a fortified wine from France.
And then she says, yeah, so everyone will be tech savvy but hungry. Lol.
Exactly. And it was a great shame because it was the first few years that tech was coming into the schools, and I was kind of part of the involved in the budgeting they used to do, and they were throwing almost all the school resources at getting the IT because they'd been told they need an IT department, and everything else was being put to the side, like sports equipment and days out and trips and things was getting lost just to buy a bunch of computers and tech room. It was wrong. Oh, Tabby Eats is in. Merry Christmas, buddy. Are you still in the US? Are you back back home?
So Tropic Lush says, one of my customers gifted me a Ferrero Rocher. I'm going to make a version of your Malteser cake with them.
Oh, nice.
And Sean says, Steve, my biggest barrier with your many recipes I want to try is the lack of ingredients. Your onigiri, for example, I have no clue where to get the traditional fillings.
Where are you, Sean? Onigiri is a lot of the ingredients, and Tabby would be able to back us up on this, but a lot of the ingredients are quite often available in the Asian supermarkets.
It says I have an Asian market, but it's more Korean and they don't speak English.
But you see, onigiri you can make with almost anything. You could make your onigiri and fill it with just ingredients from Western supermarkets, as you know, dried fish and peaches. If you can't get fermented plums and all sorts of you know, some of the traditional flavors, you can certainly experiment with tuna, even, for example.
Well, Tabby says there, we are back in Tokyo.
Oh, good man. I've enjoyed. I haven't been able to see. I'm so sorry we haven't been able to see much, but I knew you had been over to New York, and I've enjoyed watching some of the stuff in the background as we've been working. So you guys have had a ball of a time. Fantastic.
Linda says, I have to go. My family is arriving. Bye for now.
Bye, Linda.
And Sean says from southwestern Ontario, Canada.
We are. Oh, Tabby. By the way, we've been making a biscotti with a. I think they might have chilled a little bit. Let me just spill. No.
No.
Let's just make that a bit cooler. Oh, the beauties of live television. So we've been making biscotti with a marzipan centre. So it's sort of like a Stollen biscotti. See, that's the beauty, and I think we're going to be doing a lot more of that this year as well. I would love to get over to Japan and meet with you guys if ever we have the chance. It would be such fun. We've known each other for such a long time. It'd be good fun. But yeah, that you can do. There are so many ingredients. I mean, onigiri, you really only need Japanese short grain rice, so it's not so complicated to get the rice, and then the fillings. And some people actually put chocolate. I've seen them use chocolate in onigiri. Wouldn't be my favourite, I don't think, but it is something that is done. But you know, it isn't hard to make, and it's a healthy and a lovely sort of. I mean, can you get the nori seaweed? I'm sure you can. You can find that in almost any supermarket here in Australia. So any other questions there?
Well, Mike Brooker says, in Oklahoma we have rifles and pistols. My dad had my brother to roll a sack of potatoes off the roof. Dad fired his shotgun and said, I shot Santa. Lol.
Well, that's well, that's a nice story to share on Christmas Eve.
And Santa's out and about.
Yeah. I saw I saw a thing Google were doing. It was like follow Santa around the world. You can see it on the Google thing. It says click here to follow Santa around the world. It didn't really do a lot for me. I went to a page, there was a map. But I suppose the idea is that, yeah, all around the world there are different times that Santa Claus will be visiting. And for those of you that say there is no Santa, you are greatly mistaken. There certainly is. All adults know that.
So Tabby says, I agree, Steve. You were one of those people that inspired us to start our channel. So thank you. And we look forward to you coming to Japan.
Buddy, thank you very much. I've always had some of the most wonderful friends here on YouTube, and that's what makes it fun. And I think also, you know, travel is a lot, and cultural experience is a lot. I mean, when we started traveling 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, when we started traveling, it was more to discover people and food. So it's been a lot of fun, and we just don't seem to be able to stop it. We will get there. We get everywhere eventually.
So Sean says, I have the rice and the nori and a triangle mould. I make mine with tuna and some with corned beef.
Yeah, that'll work. I mean, you can put anything in onigiri. You can put anything in sushi if you like. I think I get into trouble with some of the traditionalists who say, you know, Italian food has to be done this way, and Japanese food has to be done, and Korean food has to be done this way, because I'm not a believer. I think, like language, if you offer a language, like the British took their language around the world and gave it to different cultures, and it's developed differently, and we talk differently and spell things differently. And some people get really agitated by that, but I think it's actually important that we remember that you can't give something to somebody and then tell them how to use it. If you give them a food cultural experience, you tell them, you know, this is our pizza, this is the way we make it, and then they go and do something completely different. Well, you can't tell them off for that. That's not your right to tell people that they can't do something different with a food. Sure, if you want to go to a country and teach a traditional style of cooking, then you should try and do it traditionally. But there's no reason why, if you give that recipe to a person with a different cultural background, that they cannot do it their way. It's just the way I think. Well, it's not the way I think, it's facts. You can't stop people from doing what they want with food. And they should be able to, because everyone has different experiences. I mean, I'm going to be doing a Mexican series from our trip to Mexico, and we will be trying to replicate the Mexican food to the way it was in Mexico, which is nothing like what we have here outside of Mexico, because we're trying to share an authentic feeling of Mexican. But that doesn't mean that you can't actually do a chocolate taco. They don't do chocolate tacos. Look.
So that's what Sean said. I love to explore. I just have a desire to try the traditionals.
Yes, and that's why when we were very surprised when we spent time in Mexico about 18 months back, that we were surprised by the variety of foods the Mexicans eat that we don't get to see in typical Mexican restaurants outside of Mexico, and even learning about masa flour was quite a big eye-opener for us to understand how masa, which is the traditional type of flour they use in Mexico, is used in almost all the dishes, and what a difference that makes to the food is fascinating. I am still losing my voice. Mm-hmm.
PJH1215 says, please answer. Can you ask the question again? I don't know what you asked.
Right. I'm not going to dip these biscotti in the white chocolate because it's just not melted the way I would like it to. So here is my biscotti with a marzipan core. So it is a Stollen based biscotti. Let me just hold it to the camera. Which camera shall I hold it to? Here. So you can see in the center there, that is marzipan. And I've got my coffee, which I've warmed up just a little bit. And it's just, I've got to try this. It's too good. So here goes.
Can't talk now. I do Charles Lewis's Christmas memory. When I was a child, my dad used to throw snowballs up on the roof and tell us it was reindeer tracks. We were very little, so we believed.
Well, you can imagine, Shah, in Australia, you're not going to get many snow-covered roofs. Michelle, take it away. I've got a mouthful.
You've got a
of
mouthful.
Biscotti. They are delicious.
So Sean says, Steve, have you tried made pupusas? If so, would love to see you do a video of it.
I have not. Where is that? No, I have not made pupusas, and I'm not 100% sure what a pupusa is. Michelle, just Google that. It's a Mexican dish.
Now I will check.
It is delicious, and I'm just going to give this a little try. I'm going to dip it in my coffee because they're brick hard. They're perfect biscotti.
So it's a traditional Salvadorian dish of a thick corn tortilla stuffed with a savoury filling.
No, I haven't. I'm getting the marzipan.
Have you heard of boiled dinner? They make it in Nova Scotia, where I grew up, and Maine, USA.
No, I haven't, Charles. What is boiled dinner?
And Brenda said, Steve, Michelle, I'm dreaming, but do you remember a cake that had a pastry-type base, a currant fruit layer, then another pastry top, then icing sugar, and cut into bars? Not Charles, these were layers.
A pastry base.
And then
a cake layer.
A currant fruit layer, then another pastry base, then icing sugar on the top.
No. A pastry base, a currant fruit layer.
Yeah, and then another pastry topping, and then icing sugar on the top.
Oh, it sounds like a Chelsea, not a Chelsea, an Eccles cake.
Sort of.
Is it an Eccles cake? Eccles cake is a pastry, currants, raisins, generally currants, pastry on top, and it has a sugar top. Sometimes they put icing sugar on top. So I love Eccles cakes, by the way. If it isn't them, I will make them on my channel sometime because they are delicious. Now, we've been going for quite some time. I think both Michelle and I are probably exhausted. We've been going for over about 3 hours?
3.5.
3.5 hours. So, chorley cakes, yeah, could be a chorley cake. Let's think, I mean, it sounds like an old English, anything that's pastry like that with currants and raisins in, it's got to be sort of a north of England.
Slightly less sweet than its Eccles cousin.
Yeah, it could be but I'm thinking Eccles cakes.
So boiled dinner is corned beef and cabbage, so hearty and delish.
Corned beef and cabbage I've made many times. I mean, it's a favourite. So that's basically a salt. Corned means to be salted. So the corns of salt, what they mean. So it's a cured beef, which has been soaked in a salt brine over a number of days, and then you boil it up with cabbage, and often serve it with steamed potatoes. My voice is starting to go, everybody. I'm virtually.
Patty Levasseur says, you tripped me out. You're both so lucky to have each other, such a great team.
Thank you, Patty. We are lucky. So I am going to start to roll on here. I will just repeat what was said by Leslie earlier on. We do have the Patreon. If anyone wants to support us on there for this tour around Australia this year, it would be great. Even the smallest amount, if you get across to patreon.com/Steve Owens. And if you want to, even the smallest amount, price of a cup of coffee a month or something like that would be good. But that is not important. It's not what it's all about. It's all about having fun. And I hope you're all going to have a wonderful Christmas. Any last questions before I go? I'll give it a little pause. I'm really running out of steam in my voice. I can feel it starting to go, and I've had my honey.
Drink some more water.
I've drunk lots of water. I'm absolutely busting to go to the loo as well, because I have drunk lots of water, lots of coffee.
Oh, Sean was asking whether oysters or mussels would be too wet for onigiri, and Tabby have answered.
What's Tabby say? I would say it depends. I mean, smoked oysters, smoked mussels would be fine. It depends how they're prepared. If they're because oysters and mussels can be quite dry. He's
suggesting simmering the oysters and mussels in a mixture of soy sauce, sake, and a little sugar.
Yes, that would be nice. But you know, if you're going for smoked oysters in an oil, they can be quite dense. You can use anything you like, any combination of foods. You've got a base there. It's a bit like a pizza in a way. The onigiri is the base in which you're going to serve whatever flavors you wish. So if you enjoy it, I say go for it. I mean, I've given you a couple of traditional examples. Tabby's got some onigiri on his channel as well. So you can basically do what you want. Just have fun. That's the main thing. 48 likes, gone. Couple more likes, hit that like button, get me up to 50 likes, and then I'm off.
So
Emmanuel, hi, Merry Christmas and welcome.
So PJH1215 says, could you
ask my family what?
I know.
It was a lot of fun to do this live hangout today, everybody. It's been good. Everybody's popped in over time. A lot of the regulars. Some of you haven't had chance, so you might be watching this back later. Ask those comments down below, and you know I'll always be checking the comments even after the show, just to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful and beautiful Christmas. Don't forget, we'll be touring around Australia over 2018. We've got a lot of places to go to. We're going to be going right our way across to Perth, and we will be filming a lot of that travelling as we go. So we'll be sharing that on the channel as we go. Is there any other questions, Michelle, that I've
Brenda
missed?
says mug of milk, whiskey, sugar, and a pinch of allspice.
For my throat, yeah, I am guessing. I've put quite a few things. Right now I think it's just shutting up. Probably about the best thing I can do. So don't forget, if you haven't checked out, at the beginning of this show we made homemade marzipan. It is absolutely delicious. We've made our biscotti there. They are fantastic. It has worked. I haven't got a name for it. If you want to make biscotti, it's so simple to do. We will see you in the new year.
I've got 50 likes.
Ah, beautiful. 50 likes. I'm going to have to go on that. Loved you all. Take care. And we will see you in the new year. Be good. Share the love. Hit that thumbs up. If you're watching this later, hit that thumbs up. Bye-bye. I'm going to stop the stream. Cheerio.